Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 224 of At Odds with Wrestling. Joe and Adam here. Adam, hello. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Joe. I'm just making sure that my phone is muted. I'm getting a lot of mentions from angry people. Apparently, I'm like stirring pots left and right. I don't know why.
Yeah, maybe more on that later. So I will say this. Good episode of Sportch Talk this week.
Oh, hi, thanks.
Again, even though you and Marcus and Brett could have been speaking Greek, Spanish, and Swahili together in how much comprehension I got, but I was following along as long as you stuck to, like, this team is playing this team, but when you're getting into, like, people's names and stuff, I'm like, I don't know any of these people, you know what I mean? I think, one of you might have mentioned, no, this was somebody else where they mentioned Joe Montana. It was the Rob's podcast, the Rob's podcast, Patui, where he was talking about, like, Steve Young and Joe Montana, you know?
Yeah, well, the Rob is a man who's stuck in the 90s, so that makes sense that he would be bringing those guys up, you know? But yeah, no, I had a blast with Sports Talk. Myself and Marcus did it with baseball at the end of the last season, and we had talked privately about doing like a football playoff one, and we both thought at the last minute, hey, let's bring Brett on because, you know, Brett's got a team that people say is good. I believe them, but so brought him on, and it was a good time. So Brett wanted to talk basketball, but then I would have had to have been Brian Myers when they talk about Star Wars. I would have just been like, da na 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 na.
So when I logged on Tuesday night to do Longbox Heroes, I saw your on notification was there, right? And I'm like, oh, did Adam like forget to log out from a week ago? What's going on? And then I saw like other names that I recognized that their little green light was on too. And I'm like, oh, okay, Adam's up to something.
Adam's going into business for himself, building a brand behind your back.
And again, you lucked out because like we were done with Longbox Heroes early. Show's done, show's posted, everything's edited, all the things are scheduled. And I'm like, shit, I'm going to bed. So I get up and I'm brushing my teeth, and usually like when I'm recording the podcasts, you know, the phone is on silent, so not even vibrate, you know. And lately I've been making more of a concerted effort, like, okay, I'm done with the podcast, let me turn the phone back on just in case. If I never turn my phone back on, Sports Talk wasn't going up until like Wednesday morning, you know.
Yeah, as long as it was up before the games kick off on Saturday, it would have been fine.
Gotcha.
You know? But I forgot what I was going to say. You didn't have to edit it, though. The dog took care of that. So. Well,
I was going to say, dog did a good job at editing, so I know who I could rely on there. You did a good job hosting the show, so I know who could lead here if I ever need to. You know, I could lean on you and just say, yeah, you got this one this week, you know?
The next time you're sick in like a week or so and your voice is gone, right? You know?
Remember Jonas? Remember Jonah?
Vaguely, yeah.
All right. But it's on the After Dark, and it's on the At Odds feed. So if you want like some real deep, thorough football discussion with the playoffs coming up, definitely check that one out, you know?
Yeah, thank you. And we did some scooping and booping too, but I'm sure we'll talk about some of that
here. Well, again, the scoop got booped about 6 times between Tuesday and, like, I'm sure as we're recording now, like, my phone is off, so if anything happens in the next 3 to 6 hours that it takes us to record this show, it's going to have to be dealt with next week, you know?
Yeah, the next episode of Sports Talk will be us issuing apologies for getting things wrong.
Right. Well, not so much getting things wrong, but kind of jumping the gun a little bit, but...
Yeah, we should have just did the whole, if this is true, this is big. You know?
Right, if true, big. You know, yeah. the verbal version of the eyes emoji.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into our show, huh?
Yeah.
And now, At Odds with Wrestling presents This Day in Wrestling History.
So this day in wrestling history, we're going to do things in a little bit out of order, right?
All right.
So today, this day in wrestling history, 25 years ago, Raw, Nitro head-to-head. Nitro is continuing their new talent initiative, fresh off the heels of the debut of Thunder. We have such new faces in World Championship Wrestling as Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Marty Jannetty, the Black Cat, and Nitro Girl Whisper.
Oh, thank God. We got Whisper there. That's all that matters.
Also, the continuation of the Jericho heel turn is going on.
I watched that. I saw the video clip, and I also saw, Hoovie's little mishap get into the ring.
So this is the beginning of, like, because Jericho for the last several weeks, pre the heel turn, and now the heel turn has happened. He had been fighting like heavyweight guys, right? Mm-hmm. This is the beginning of Jericho officially being heel and officially becoming like the cruiserweight guy, right?
Yeah.
And like this, like as good as Jericho is, man, like this is like he blew up in like record time with this, right?
Yeah, this is like I appreciated him in ECW and I appreciated his early WCW stuff, but I went from not being a huge fan at all to being like obsessed with his cruiserweight run. And
we're gonna like I don't want to get too far ahead of it,
Yeah.
Only because we're gonna be watching it every week over like the next like however many months of it going on, So I'm excited to kind of relive some of that stuff, Yeah,
I make it a point when I see certain things on like the This Day in History like Twitter feeds that like, I'll watch, and I've been watching all the Jericho stuff.
Yeah.
And the introduction of Whisper, I watched that.
Of course. Not to be outdone over on Monday Night Raw from State College, and this is one of those things I always like to put an asterisk on one of these things. I wish I knew, like, I was still really bad at geography, and in my mind, State College was, like, closer to Pittsburgh than it is to us.
Dude, when I went to that Penn State game over the fall, my buddy asked me to go, and I'm like, what is that, like 6 hours away, 7 hours away?
Right.
I thought it was in Pittsburgh, like out there as well. He's like, no, it's like an hour away.
Right. If only I knew then what I knew now, I would have probably been going to these State College Raws, because like they would go there all the time, and they would always do like cool shit at them,
Yeah, especially around this time.
Yeah, so New Talent Initiative over on Raw. We do have the debut in the World Wrestling Entertainment of the newly crowned NWA Tag Team Champions, the Rock and Roll Express.
And somehow they looked old as shit like 25 years ago as well.
Right. And somehow they're still as old. They're equally as old as shit 25. Like they hit that wall where from like 1986 to today, they just looked like shit.
Yeah. And my favorite thing is I watched that today as well. Like they're being introduced as these legends of wrestling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, they're with Cornette, so maybe they're heels, but the Rock and Roll Express have always been babyface, at least to my knowledge, which is very limited. And within seconds of the match, they're doing that chicken shit heel thing where they like one of them goes and hugs the other one in fear in the corner.
Yeah.
Great stuff. No wonder why it died a slow or quick death.
Well, it lasts about 3 months, maybe. But this, like, it was supposed to be, like, playing up the NWA stuff, like, oh, my God, hated rival of the Rock and Roll Express. Jim Cornette is managing the Rock and Roll Express. Robert Gibson had been heel before, but never Ricky and Robert together as a team were heel, let alone in the WWE. Oh, my God. It was supposed to, like, blow the minds of, like, the old school NWA people who absolutely were not watching Attitude Era WWE.
Yeah, I think those fans, like, would you say those fans were over in WCW or just left?
They had not left yet. They were still hanging on by a thread to WCW.
All right.
So we also get the Mark Henry heel turn, his first of many.
Okay, I think I saw pictures of that.
Right, so this is one of those infamous deals where Ken Shamrock is feuding with the Nation of Domination. And it's a tag team match. And The Rock cuts a promo, and he's like, Shamrock, you got no friends, blah, blah, blah. And Mark Henry comes out, and he's got, like, a Rocky Suck shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rock, The Rock cuts promo on him, and is like, oh, you better take that shirt off. And Mark Henry's selling like he's not gonna. And then The Rock says, I guarantee by the end of this match, I'm going to take that shirt off you,
Okay.
So Ken Shamrock's running wild in the match. He goes to put Rocky in the ankle lock. Mark Henry turns on him. They lay out Ken Shamrock, and then The Rock takes the shirt off Mark Henry, and he has a Nation of Domination shirt on underneath.
Okay. And like Mark Henry was rather svelte at this time too, wasn't he?
Yeah, like he was still big, but he wasn't like, and Mark Henry's someone who like notoriously, as we get into like 99, 2000, 2001, his weight would go up and down very frequently. Like he would get like over 400 pounds and they'd send him to OVW to lose weight. And he would go down there and lose weight. And then they're like, oh, we want you to go compete in like some powerlifting thing. We need you to gain all that weight back. Yeah. Then he would go and gain all that weight back. And they're like, okay, now go lose that weight again. So we can put you on TV,
Yeah, that's real healthy, I hear.
Yeah. But also there's the go home show for Royal Rumble. Kane and Undertaker are on the same page as Raw goes off the air. Kane helps Undertaker run off DX as the show closes. Okay. Now, I knew, even at the time, I'm like, well, this is just going to be a swerve. Kane is going to just turn on Undertaker at the pay-per-view. It's very clear. But, like, they were selling this like this is the biggest thing, and Paul Bearer comes out, and he's all disheveled, and he looks a mess, and he can't believe that Kane betrayed him after everything that Kane did for him, and so on and so forth. But this is, like, the beginning of just, like, swerve upon swerve upon swerve during the course of a Monday Night Raw episode, right?
Yeah. They weren't on the same page until it was, like, Biker Taker, was it?
Officially as a team, no. Okay, so later this year, like this leading into the summer, when so it's after Hell in the Cell, and again we're getting ahead of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Kane and Undertaker are a team doing the bidding of Mr. McMahon, and there's the pay-per-view where they both it's a 2-on-1 handicap match. It's the two of them against Stone Cold. And they do the double choke slam on Stone Cold, and they both, quote-unquote, pin him at the same time. So Stone Cold is fired, and both Undertaker and Kane are the champion, and that's what holds the title. That might be the, that's actually probably like the September, October in your house, and that's what leads to the Deadly Game tournament at Survivor Series to crown the new champion. So, like, Kane and Undertaker are a team functioning together by, like, September.
Okay, but they're not like a team. They're begrudging partners.
No, they're a team working together.
Oh, okay, that's a quick turnaround.
It certainly is.
And after Kane killed like Undertaker's their parents or their father or mother, whatever, I forget. It's all very confusing. I just remember somebody being choke slammed into a coffin.
That's coming up on one of our Raws coming up in the next couple of weeks, right?
I look forward to actually seeing that again.
But lastly, Vince McMahon tells us that negotiations have been reached. Mike Tyson will be at the Royal Rumble this Sunday, and he hopes to have a chance to talk with Mike to get Mike to appear on Raw the next night.
Oh, well, thank God. Vince is a great negotiator. I think any company that needs like some kind of big deal made should bring him in to negotiate it.
Yes. But so that's everything head-to-head Monday Night Raw versus Nitro from 25 years ago. But something even bigger happened on this day in wrestling history, Adam.
Oh, yeah.
On this day, wrestling history, we're all old 31 years ago, and I'll let the footage speak for itself.
Have the tag team known as the Rockers been having their problems? Unquestionably they have, but how deep those problems are, we really didn't know till last week's barbershop. Let's take you back to footage. Shawn Michaels apparently doesn't have any problem at all.
Unquestionably.
And if you want to go on your own, then walk off and leave. If you want to stick together and make this thing work, when I turn around, we're going to shake hands, and we're going to go on and rock and roll like the Rockers can do.
We need each other. You know that. Sounds fair to me.
Marty looks great in his mom jeans. Shawn already with a bad guy leather jacket on.
They need each other.
Cool if that's prevailing.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Rockers!
Told you. I see that. Told you. Tag team special.
Get back in position.
See, one without the other isn't any good. Oh, I knew he was going to do that. I
just knew he was going to do that. He don't need Jannetty. I told you that off and on. Are you kidding? What a despicable act that was. Oh, my God. Right through the glass window of the barber shop. Jannetty tried to dive through the window to escape. Did you see that? Are you blind? What an act of cowardice. Oh, he's hurt. A plate glass window. Oh, look at that. He's busting wide open. We need a paramedic here. Is there a problem?
God, if Jannetty wasn't an alleged murderer, like how great would a place like it doesn't even have to have beefcake, but you kind of need it, you know. Marty, Sean in that jacket, and Brutus Beefcake in a barbershop, and it like with a breakable window.
Yeah.
God, I would spend so much money on this. But so I was in the thick of my WWF watching, and it was 92, so I was 12. I was a huge Rockers mark. So I was getting the magazine, and it had that thing that he tore up where it was like, are the Rockers, you know, breaking up? And I was like, no, don't break up, Rockers. I love the Rockers. And I'm sitting watching Wrestling Challenge, and I'm playing with my Hasbros when this happens. And there was a moment of being stunned. And then like a light switch went off, Joe. I was all in on Shawn Michaels. I swear to God, that was the day where I was like, yes, I am all in on Shawn Michaels. And then like when he was on television and he had the white trunks with the hearts on it.
Yeah.
I took my jumper Hasbro. I took white out. I whited out his green trunks. And then, so he had all white trunks on, and then I took a red marker and I drew all the hearts on it. And that's immediate top guy in my fig fed.
That's tremendous.
But I think Shawn Michaels might have been like my first like heel turn that I witnessed and embraced. If that makes sense, you know?
So I never liked the Rockers growing up as a kid because I hated all the baby faces and I liked all the good guys, I hated all the baby faces and liked all the bad guys for the most part, right? Yeah. Everybody liked the Warrior, you know, everybody liked Sting, that sort of thing, right? So Shawn turns and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't debut the look until the Royal Rumble a couple of weeks later, like a week later, right? That's the first time they do a backstage interview with him, and he just looks completely different, which was the right thing to do. Give him a whole brand new look. And the only two things that, 31 years later, retrospect, we're going to change some things about this turn, okay?
Okay.
Marty should have been wearing a white shirt.
You want him to get some color?
If he's, and Gorilla says he's busted open, but we don't really get a chance to see it. But, like, he gets thrown through the window. If he's wearing the white shirt and he comes up and that shirt's covered in blood, you know what I mean? Like, that's going to be, like, you're taking a moment from people's wrestling memory that's like a 9.75. And you're putting it to a 10 plus with that bloody white shirt, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that it would be even more of a spectacle, but you're talking 1992, a show that was like airing on Saturday mornings to like a bunch of kids. Okay.
So you say that. This is the same show that was airing Saturday mornings for kids. Just like a month earlier, a snake was gnawing on Macho Man's arm when Jake the Snake pushed a woman down and threatened to beat her, right?
Well, the woman beating thing, like, I make no excuses for it, but that it was a different time.
And then 3 months earlier, we get the bit where Undertaker and Jake lock Warrior in a casket, and a cobra bites Warrior on the face. Well, so like they were playing fast and loose like the previous 6 months with like, let's see how far we can get away with, you know?
Yeah, those were working snakes. Those were fine.
But still, you know?
No, I agree. Like, if it could have happened and they wouldn't have been taken off the air, I absolutely would have loved it, you know?
Right. So here, the first thing that Shawn does to Marty is he hits him with the super kick, right?
Mm-hmm.
That should have been his finisher from the rip, right?
Yeah, because he did like a weird side suplex.
He had the side suplex, sometimes called the teardrop suplex. He was doing a pile driver as his finisher for a couple months. And then he doesn't start using the super kick as his finisher until like November of 92, right?
Yeah, because I had a Super Nintendo or a Genesis wrestling game, and it had the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, in it, and that was his finisher, and I was so pissed.
Yeah.
I couldn't super kick anybody.
But like and again, you have that visual of him, and like you get over like how deadly that super kick is. He took Jannetty out with one shot with it and was able to compromise him through the window. You know, he does that in the ring, and like it's curtains for anyone. You know, instead of giving him like these weird things to do instead of the super kick, right?
Yeah.
But none of this would matter because, you know, the wrestler of the 90s in the World Wrestling Entertainment ends up being Mr. Hitman anyway. So,
you know, I'll save my criticism of Mr. Hitman until to show homework.
All right, perfect. So let's get into like the last week. Where would you like to start, sir?
All right, so obviously we teased it a little bit at the beginning of the show. We have to start off with it. The thing that all of like wrestling Twitter and really just Twitter in general is talking about right now, and that is the fact that Sky Blue carried Hot Goldberg to a pretty good match. It was a pretty good match on Rampage. Like, I was surprised. Like, there was a couple times in that match I thought with the interference or distraction of Red Velvet, Tony was going to do the right thing and strap up Sky Blue. And the fact that she was able to counter out of Jade's finisher that one time, obviously the second time it hit, but like that was actually a good back and forth match that I wasn't 100% convinced that Jade was going to win. Like going into the match, I was like, okay, Jade's winning. But there was a point in that match where I was like, it could happen. But again, credit the two of them for having a solid match. And I do have an idea I want to run past you. This is the real reason why I bring this up. No, this isn't greasy. This is an actual like booking idea. So Red Velvet, obviously, a bitter former baddie, right? She's not happy with Hot Goldberg anymore. So let's say, because I thought that this might happen for a second, but it won't. But what do you think about this? So the match is happening, Sky Blue versus Jade. Red Velvet comes out. She's pissy. She goes to Sky Blue, like Sky Blue gets shit canned out of the ring, goes to pick up Sky Blue, and then just in the full view of the ref, just clotheslines Sky Blue and just walks away with a smile on her face. And the ref disqualifies Jade. Jade keeps the belt, but she loses the streak.
So I've thought about that quite a bit, that definitely should have happened. Definitely now, with like Red Velvet being like a former baddie who's looking to get revenge. But I think you want Jade's first loss to be some sort of big spectacle. Because, so what you could even do is you could have that happen, right? Mm-hmm. And then Marky comes back as the lawyer to get that match stricken from the record.
Yeah.
And then that's somehow Jade and Marky get duped into doing a no disqualification match with Red Velvet, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go because, like, okay, if you do that as the disqualification thing, and that's how Jade gets her first loss, like, okay, you're protecting Jade, but then what? Like, in my mind, you just need to have, like, what that next step is, because that's not the end of the angle. That's, like, the middle of the angle. Like, that's not how you resolve that angle.
Oh, sure. It's not the blow off,
yeah.
You know, but it's something where if you're saying, hey, we want to take the belt off of Jade, you know, next month, you can do that a couple weeks beforehand to just kind of, you know, ease the way in, you know. But I like the idea of having Marky, you know, contest it. I think, right. And then you can even take the loss away. And you know, have commentary allude to the fact, you know, every time the record shows up on the Tron when it's like 49-0, you know, you could have Shivani be like, no, it's actually supposed to be a 1 if it wasn't for Mark Sterling. You know, I think that would be pretty entertaining.
You do a little bit of a reference to like the Barry Bonds and Mark McGuire records now that the records happened, but they have an asterisk next to them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it would be something to make her interesting up until she loses the belt to like Sasha or something.
Okay, so I thought based on the people who are involved, and Jade is Jade, right? We're not looking for Jade to have, you know, 5-star classics, and Sky Blue is relatively new. I did not expect the two of them to have that in them. I doff my John Cena cap to both of them. everybody at ringside, whoever the agent was, like all the players in that match got that match to happen to look that good, and it was a really good match. Obviously, they're building toward that 50th match being against Red Velvet. They're attempting to build Red Velvet up as a credible contender, and she's going to beat Red Velvet. And Jade is absolutely getting to 50, right?
Yeah.
She's losing the belt on match 51. There's no question about it, right?
Yeah.
But I like I said, I like your idea of like Red Velvet could have been the one to,
it's like you're not actually the one scoring the pinfall, but you will forever go down as the one who ended the streak. Directly. So
yeah.
All right, cool. What do you got?
We're talking about Rampage. We're talking about Dynamite, specifically Rampage. And yet again, Aubrey Edwards sticks her nose in where it doesn't belong, oversteps the boundaries and limitations of the laws and jurisdictions that a referee should and could have, and for the second time in as many days, robs. And again, listen, it's a week of Double J being robbed. This was just the middle of the road of that happening. However, that being said, those two matches, we talked about the Dynamite match last week, but that Rampage match was fucking awesome, man. And listen, I'm coming in with rose-colored glasses because I love Double J, and I don't like Jay Lethal. And I think the Acclaimed are good, but they're still very young. And I think that's another one where you have Double J, and you have Sanjay, and you have Billy Gunn as kind of like the elder statesman of this match, kind of helping keep everything together. And like the worst part of the match was like Billy Gunn like kind of taking the stroke all fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought like these two matches that the Acclaimed had against Double J and his tag team partner have done like wonders to make the Acclaimed like, and I don't want to say like her learn to work kid, whatever, but like work a different style than they're probably used to, which I think is going to help them immensely when they're the ones like 6 months from now or a year from now and they're wrestling a team like Top Flight or some other newbie team that comes up, that they're like, oh, we have this experience from wrestling like a little bit slowed down of a match, a little bit differently structured match than a typical AEW move, spot match. But like the technical side, I think it's going to help them. The in-ring stuff I thought was fantastic. I'm someone who said, like, oh, they'll get the Double J at the pay-per-view, him and Sting, and then Jeff will go off and do whatever he has to do behind the scenes. But I really think Jeff has been great on TV. The matches he's been doing, the promos he's been cutting, the heat that he gets, somebody else wearing a sweater or a scarf backstage should be taking copious notes when Double J goes out and comes back through the curtain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, first of all, as soon as you started healing on Aubrey, I almost snorted water out of my nose. So
good.
That was well done. I watched this match, and I was relieved by the finish because every time you say, oh, Jeff Jarrett's winning the tag titles on Friday. And I'll be like, oh, no, he's not. And you'd be like, just you wait. I always worry that you've been talking to somebody. Like somebody texted you. So I go into these things worried, and then I'm relieved when Jarrett does not win the belt. But I'm going to grant you this. I don't want Jarrett to beat the Acclaimed. But let's just say, hypothetically, I was willing to grant you a tag team title run with Jarrett, where he wins the belt. But obviously, you're going to want a better tag team partner. Who do you think the perfect fit if you were booking AEW for a Jeff Jarrett tag team championship run?
Eddie Kingston.
Let's do one that fits.
Somebody who's currently already on the roster.
Yeah.
Let me think. You know what? So this is, I wish I remember who tweeted this out, that Action and Andretti should turn heel and join up with Double J, and his name should be Total Nonstop Action Andretti. So there you go. It would be Double J and TNAA. All right. TNAA, excuse me.
That wins. All right, fair enough. You know what? If that happens,
Yeah.
you could beat the Acclaimed this week. I don't care. I'm willing to accept that because I love a good bet. You know.
Yeah.
All right. So my other thing, obviously, is Broski winning the PWI Magazine Indie Wrestler of the Year. He needs to go after the Jerry Internet Wrestling Emporium belt. No. I guess we'll talk about the non-sale and all the stuff that happened. There's not a lot of details, but I could just kind of say what we experienced, which an hour before Sports Talk went on the air, Stephanie McMahon Helmsy Levesque resigned from her position. And then while we were on the air, news with a Z at the end broke that the Saudis bought the company. And then, relatively soon afterwards, people were like, you learned this on Reddit, and it was just like some dude, and it didn't actually happen. So, Joe, what can you enlighten us on, Mr. Insider?
Well, so, Mr. Insider, I may have gotten a tip-off on the Stephanie letter maybe about 5 minutes before it got tweeted out, okay?
Yeah, you got to get that hotline up and running.
Listen, the hotline was up and running Wednesday night, and people were calling. That's not for air consumption, but you know the email, the direct messages. I'll tell you what's up. It's too hot for the show. So the Stephanie thing comes out that she leaves, and I'm like, because she gave like a whole thing on Friday after Vince did so Friday morning after we recorded last week. We get the maneuvering where, like, Vince puts 3 of his own people on the board, and then 3 people leave the board, and then Stephanie gives, she addresses the shareholders, where she talks about, like, there's going to be a strange and different time, and so on and so forth, and then, 5 days later, she leaves, right?
Yeah.
So then, literally seconds later, you get all your journalists, all your news people tweeting eye emojis at each other that they all know some bullshit, right? Which turns out not to be true. It gets debunked, that afternoon on CNBC. I don't know, the fact that CNBC is doing more due diligence in regards to the sale of the World Wrestling Entertainment than the people that's job is to cover the World Wrestling Entertainment should speak volumes about you people that pay your $7.99 a month or whatever a Fightful subscription is, or whatever the fuck that is, that these people don't even do their due diligence. They just throw shit against the wall and hope something sticks. Anywho, so since then, we get confirmation. Then we get something that WWE has hired a bank to handle the sale to someone else. Then we get information that now another company is going to come in. Then just literally hours before we started recording, there's rumors that the Khan family, not Nick Khan, Tony Khan, is going to throw their hat into the ring to try to buy the World Wrestling Entertainment, right?
Yeah, which while I think would be funny and a big FU to the WWE stands, it would be so bad for wrestling.
I definitely think it's Tony being a silly boy doing a silly bit.
Yeah.
Because I could go and say I'm throwing in my hat to buy the World Wrestling Entertainment, right?
Well, you don't have billions of dollars.
Well, again, they don't know that, right?
True.
Until it comes time, it's all right, well, I bid $80 billion. All right. Goes to that man who says $80 billion. I go, well, I kind of lied. I don't really have $80 billion. And then I run away. And they're like, well, go to the next person, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Stephanie being gone, Triple H is still there, Shawn Michaels is still there. Allegedly Vince was not at Monday Night Raw this past week. Will he be at SmackDown this week? Who is going to buy? And that's the thing. It's not like the Saudis have bought it. It's going to be something that even with a bunch of Vince yes men, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's something that's going to take weeks, if not months, to happen, right? Mm-hmm. So, we could all just sit here and speculate. It's just the only thing that we know for sure is it's a crazy time in the World Wrestling Entertainment now that Vince is firmly in control as executive chairman, vice president, whatever the hell his title is now. And the fact that he's actually physically on the board. Oh, and then did you see the other thing? That one of the, and it's crazy that I have to go to this site to get my wrestling news, but it's on there, that one of the board members that got bumped out this past Friday, they are filing a class action lawsuit on behalf of the shareholders, alleging that Vince, quote, breached his fiduciary duties as a controlling stockholder and his methods to regain power violated Delaware state law. I don't know what Delaware state law has to do with it, but the fact that there's now a class action lawsuit on behalf of the shareholders being filed against Vince, like how much more crazy is this going to get? And it's been 2 days.
Well, they're probably incorporated out of Delaware for like tax reasons.
Sure.
You know, that's where they would bring suit to. But well, hopefully that board member wins. Look at me rooting for a rich person. But
right. And everyone else is like, oh man, I can't wait for Triple H and Stephanie to form their own company to go against Vince Tony Khan. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that's the next thing they want to do. I'm sure they want to get right back into this business, the business that has destroyed their family multiple times, both on screen and in real life over the last 40 years. It's like, hey, let's keep scratching that itch in the hopes that this time it'll take, right?
Yeah, it's really funny that they probably thought they were inheriting this company.
Oh, boy.
They can always sell, like, a couple shares of their WWE stock and just buy Impact.
I think Stephanie's probably done with wrestling of all kinds. She's been more of a behind-the-scenes person anyway. She's been more of a philanthropy person. She's been more of a corporate speak businesswoman who does little to nothing, but, like, looks good in a suit and has a disturbing smile. And I think she's just going to continue to do that, you know?
Yeah. If, let's say, the company gets sold and Vince or just whoever runs the company gives Triple H the boot, can you see him, like, staying in the wrestling business and
yes,
behind the scenes or whatever? Like, obviously not at WWE, I mean.
I think Triple H has the same sickness Vince does, that all they know is wrestling, and without wrestling in their life, they will either wither and die, or they will just continue to try to get anything in wrestling that they possibly can. What that's going to be, who knows? But for right now, Triple H is still there. You know, I could definitely see Triple H very easily shifting. And everyone's like, oh man, since Vince has been gone, WWE has been so good. Papa H, we love you. You're saving wrestling. And, like, things really haven't been that much different. Like, yeah, Triple H hired back a bunch of the people that Vince let go, but maybe outside of, like, one or two of them, most of them got let go for a reason because they suck.
Yeah. Hey, we got to see Scarlett wrestle this week. That was a plus.
There's a Kevin Nash joke in there that I'm not going to repeat on the show. But if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to see her compete in a different combat sport. But speaking of which, I do have one more thing to talk about from this past week. And Adam, let me talk to you.
I've been blindsided week after week. I still happen to be knocking on Bray Wyatt's front door. And now where do we find ourselves? Mountain Dew Pitch Black match? What does that sound like? Man, I can't help but hear Advantage LA Knight. So I just want to go ahead and say thank you, Mountain Dew. Thank you for the limited return of your pitch black flavor, the very inspiration for this match at the Royal Rumble, because now you've allowed me the great opportunity to show Bray Wyatt as the shortest WWE return in history. One match in, one match out, never seen again. Quite frankly, Bray, I've heard enough about you, and I've heard enough of his little monsters. At the Royal Rumble, I can't wait to get my hands on some Mountain Dew Pitch Black and turn the lights out on Bray Wyatt, because whose game is it? It's LA Knight's game. Yeah.
So on top of that, Alexa's officially spooky, and Uncle Howdy came out and looked at her this past week on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm holding out hope that Alexa is not spooky. She's just bad, like as in evil, not bad as in bad. But because of the fact that she's now saying that Uncle Howdy doesn't have any power over her, so maybe it's a way to just turn her heel, but not have her leak ooze from her hairline and make the rafters fall down on people, you know?
Adam, it's very clear that Uncle Howdy has control over her. Whenever his logo would pop up on the screen, she would become a different person. There were definitely fans, wink, wink, in the crowd a week or two ago on Raw that were wearing Uncle Howdy masks that were freaking her out and causing her to become bad. She is a liar because she's a bad person. Notwithstanding. But Uncle Howdy clearly has a power over her, but this is them because you know how, like, the power dynamic changed during the pandemic when Bray Wyatt got lit on fire, and then, like, Alexa was the one that had the power, and she's the one that cost Bray Wyatt the match at WrestleMania and everything else like that. Yeah. This is her reverting back to that mindset that she's been the one with Lily who's in control of all of this spookiness. But Uncle Howdy's here to show her and everyone else, except for LA Knight, that he's the real spooky power in the World Wrestling Entertainment.
Yeah, I can't process any of that because I'm still mad at you for saying that Alexa's a bad person.
She's a heel! She's a bad person!
See, all that stuff with the fans in the crowd wearing the Uncle Howdy masks, that's all like ancient history. I'm talking about this week on Raw. This week on Raw, when she was standing on the commentator desk wearing shiny tight pants, that's the only Alexa I acknowledge. Anything that happened before that with the monitors flickering and stuff like that's pre-change to this new character. And there hasn't been a Lily doll in weeks.
The promo segment literally ends with the thing happening, her freaking out, Uncle Howdy coming out, and doffing his cap at her. And that's how the segment ends.
No, she was like staring him down. She wasn't scared.
No. She had the look of fear in her eyes. What Alexa Bliss needs to do is, if she needs assistance against Uncle Howdy, Bray Wyatt, all the other dolls and puppets and knickknacks and bits and buttons, you put Alexa Bliss with LA Knight, you got your superpower couple, and now I got no problem with got no problem with Alexa Bliss. Yeah.
I'd buy that 2-pack of figures.
I'm still waiting on the first Elite of LA Knight for me to buy.
Yeah, and we're just swooping past this whole Mountain Dew thing, aren't we?
Thank you, Mountain Dew, for bringing back your pitch black flavor, which is the inspiration for the match at the pay-per-view, which we have no idea what the hell any of that means. Is it a blindfold match? Do you have to throw your opponent into a vat of Mountain Dew pitch black? Who the hell knows what it is? LA Knight seems to know what it is, but he ain't talking.
I hope it's a cinematic match.
Oh, I hope... Adam, I'm going on the record right now and saying I don't care what the match is. It already has 5 stars, right? It's starting at 5. It can only go down from there.
Yeah. Well, that's if LA Knight wins.
I don't know. If they do enough goofy shit in the match, we can go over 5 stars, you know?
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
All right. Anything else from this week?
No, I got nothing.
All right, so let's get into the homework that I assigned from this past week.
All right.
Homework. It's an obligation you owe your family and yourself. Homework. It's an obligation you owe your family and yourself.
So I assigned to Adam this past week the beginning of a bunch of stuff that we'll be watching in a similar vein. I assigned the January 10th, 2000 episode of Monday Nitro, the final episode of Monday Nitro booked under this current Vince Russo, Ed Ferrara regime. Obviously, you could watch this episode on Peacock. If you did not get a chance to watch, you could always head over to our good friend Kevin's website, masslibrary.com, and read his very lengthy and thorough rundown of this show.
Yeah. Before we get into this, how much further before this did we get either the formation of NWO 2000 or Terry Funk becoming commissioner? Like, we are kind of starting some stuff where it feels like we're mid-story. Like, so, how far back would we have had to go to kind of pick up at the beginning?
NWO 2000 started 2 weeks prior. It was the Nitro after that Starrcade where Bill Goldberg kicked Bret Hart in the head.
Okay.
So we're like 2 weeks before this Nitro. That Starrcade happens, and then the next night on Nitro is when NWA 2000 forms. Then the following week on Nitro is when Terry Funk comes out, and he's the new commissioner of World Championship Wrestling.
Okay, so two things. Like, I didn't know, like, again, it's all fuzzy, WCW in this era. I didn't know that Bret got kicked in the head and then continued working.
We're going to get into that during the course of the show.
Okay. And I was going to say, like, it might have been worth starting 2 weeks prior, even though your goal was to cover the area where Russo wasn't booking, but I get you. So
it'll make sense as we get to where we're going, right?
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, January 10th, 2000, Buffalo, New York. Show starts off with a recap, and I just want to say I watched the original feed, not the cock.
Okay.
I gave up the cock for a week. So we have a recap of some of the shenanigans over the past couple weeks with Terry Funk as the commissioner, fighting the NWO. Bret Hart says he might just have to kill Terry Funk. And I wouldn't mind watching that match. But so obviously, as is the case with all WCW episodes around that time, we get a limo, first of many limos. And this is Terry Funk with such luminaries as Arn Anderson, Paul Orndorff, and Tim Taylor's favorite wrestler, Larry Zbyszko.
I like how you say Orndorff's name the way that Hulk Hogan says Orndorff's name in promos. He calls him Arndorff.
Arndorff. I just want to say, like, if they didn't say that was Paul Orndorff getting out of the limo, I would not know. Like, Arn Anderson has looked like Arn Anderson for his entire life. Larry Zbyszko, I don't know a young Larry Zbyszko. I just know the old one. And it's just funny that Arn Anderson in this, when all of those guys look like they're 150, like, I think he's like 41.
Yeah, Kevin goes through the ages of this crew in his write-up.
Yeah.
And I just want to throw out there the recap stuff that we saw from Thunder from the week before of a torn shirt, sweaty, in duress Arn Anderson. That's all.
All right, so we're going to start things off hot with the wrestling match, Joe. I'm sure this is the first of many wrestling matches on this 2-hour program, but we have the team of the Revolution coming out to a remix of The Beautiful People. Saturn and Dean Malenko, accompanied by the franchise and Asia, and they're going to face the Filthy Animals, Conan and Kidman, with Rey Mysterio. The ding, 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 the match starts, and all of a sudden comes out Crowbar and David Flair with Daphne. They're attacking. Oh, I'm sure this is going to be thrown out. Oh, no, it's a three-way dance, and they didn't tell us. So it's actually a three-way dance, I believe, for the tag titles. Crowbar and David Flair are the champs, even though I don't think they mentioned it, and they didn't come out with the belts because they had weapons. Flair and Crowbar openly used weapons in front of the ref, but there's no DQ because it was just what WCW did around there. It seemed like Revolution just leaves as they're fighting with Ray. And no, it's a pinfalls count anywhere match. Another thing I would have liked to have known. Saturn goes and does a New Jack style dive from the balcony onto Rey Mysterio through a table. And then David Flair just swoops in and gets the pin on Saturn. And that's it. That's the first match.
Bobby Heenan says that Saturn was at least 70 feet up in the air. It was sad to see so many empty seats behind Saturn. I'm sure that was an area that was tarped off for camera kills and whatever, or unsold seats, right? I'm not sure exactly when it happened in the timeline because we discussed it last week with Ready to Rumble, but the filming of Ready to Rumble, I did have listener to the show, friend of the show, Tom Green, point out to me that in the Observer around this time, they did say that filming of Ready to Rumble did start late September, early October of 1999. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And it was filming that little bit of a match in Ready to Rumble where Ray got the injury that he has here. So we're like less than like a month or two from Ray filming his scene for Ready to Rumble and being injured.
Okay. So we go to commentary. They mentioned that they do not have a rundown for the show because Commissioner Terry Funk is booking the show on the fly. We get a recap of some of the animosity between Stevie Ray and Booker T. Stevie Ray hits Booker with the slapjack, lays out Booker and Midnight's. And then another limo arrives, this time with the NWO of Kevin Nash, Bret the Hitman Hart, Double J, Jeff Jarrett, and Big Pump Pump. And it's apparently Scott Steiner's birthday. So what do you get a man like Scott Steiner for his birthday? A bunch of prostitutes, most of them looking north of 40.
Oh, my God. Okay, so I need to stop you right there, okay?
Yep.
A couple of them are workers, okay? And a couple of them, that's just how women looked in 2000. You know what I mean? Like, if you came up to me between 1997 and 2000 and held a gun to my head and asked me how old Sable is, I would have said she was north of 40. But I think at the time she was 29. That's just how women looked back then, Adam.
See, I grew up in this era and I have no memory of that. Like, I remember in my mind what constituted an attractive woman in like the late 90s, and then I remember like what constitutes an attractive woman right now, like, and that doesn't like fit. And like Stacy Keibler was in the company and she looked nothing like them. Tori Wilson was in the company and she looked nothing like them.
Well, they weren't workers doing like a gimmick like this. They came from like modeling or cheerleading or whatever it was, right?
Okay, so like if you were an attractive worker in 2000, you just had big hair.
You just had big hair, you had a nice leathery tan. You know, that's just what it was, right? So to get just Adam, to put things into perspective, okay? Mm-hmm. Two of the women that were in there that were workers, okay? One was April Hunter. That was the redhead girl, right?
She was the one that likes jumping up and down.
Right. So she was a worker, right? At the time, she was 24 years old.
That's a rough 24 years.
Okay. So it was a rough 24 years. The other one was the future Major Guns, Tylene Buck. She, at the time, was, if I'm doing my gazintas, was 27 years old.
See, when I seen Major Guns, I always assumed she was like in her late 30s.
Okay. Adam, this is just the way women looked back in the early 2000s.
All right, just doesn't make any sense to me, but fair enough. I'll defer to you on that one.
And I also want to throw in there, if you caught Kevin Nash, who's always a gem in these sort of things, he said that that day was Scott Steiner's 21st birthday.
Yeah.
And also the rib on all of this, at least to me, I went and I looked it up, and I'm like, was it really Scott Steiner's birthday on this day? And it wasn't, right?
Yeah.
It was actually Buff Bagwell's actual birthday on that show day. So I could only imagine, like, Buff with the ego sort of thing that he had. The fact that they were doing an angle on the show celebrating somebody else's birthday meant that he couldn't go out there and get a cheap pop for telling the fans it was his birthday.
Well, I mean, he had a great segment later, which we'll get to, you know, so it was worth it. But we see that there's a hospital job on, like an ambulance job on Ray. So Ray's being put into an ambulance. And then next we have the old Boomasu. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just have to stop you there. As they're getting Ray onto the ambulance to sell the injury, Ray is like having a seizure? I don't know. Like, I wish I saw the direction that Ray was given how to sell the injury. He could have just been like, oh, my leg hurts. Oh, be careful of my leg. I'm in a lot of pain. But he was like literally like shaking. He was in so much pain. It was very odd.
Yeah, well, you've never had somebody jump on you from 70 feet in the air. Maybe that's a side effect.
Touché.
Yeah. So we have Oklahoma comes out. He's got a bottle of barbecue sauce and a broom. He's tired of all the hoochies not being in the kitchen and barefoot and pregnant. And that silicone freak Medusa ain't no damn good. And at this point, I realize she's the cruiserweight champ. I'm like, okay. So he issues an open challenge to any woman in the back. He's going to have a slobber knocker. Asia accepts. And she basically comes in the ring, does a little flippy-do. Oklahoma jumps her, and then it proceeds to get his ass kicked until Oklahoma hits her in the head with the bottle of barbecue sauce. Medusa then just saunters out with blue hair or blue wig and different boobs than I remember her having. And Medusa takes just probably the most vicious broom shot to the head that I've ever seen. Like you might have to look away because honestly, if we knew back in 2000 what we know about head injuries now, she should have never took that broom shot. And now she'll have no way to get home, which Bobby Heenan said as the broom was breaking. So I enjoyed that little bit. Bobby Heenan always seems to put something good on a shit sandwich, but yay, Medusa.
So the Revolution are heels. It's a group of heels, and they have their big, muscly female bodyguard person with them, right? Yeah. And she's a heel. Unless she's in the segments with the male chauvinist character who's competing for a secondary title, and then she's a babyface. Does this sound like anything that may have happened in another company literally 3 months beforehand?
Now, did WCW have a babyface female other than Medusa to put in that spot?
No.
That could work?
No.
So, yeah, that's probably why. Anyways, we go backstage. Terry Funk. Oh, actually, no, they're not backstage. They come out. Terry Funk and his crew, they go ahead and have a promo that goes on for an hour and a half. They're the old age outlaws because everything about WCW in this era was take something from the WWF and just copy it. So Arn in this promo, I wrote this, I said this before, that he was super young. And then I wrote down, oh, great, they're all getting a chance to talk. Because by the time we got to Larry Zbyszko and then Orndorff, I was like, oh, come on, make this end. Orndorff points to the power plant students in the front row, and I'm like, oh, I recognize some of those guys. The NWO comes out. Jarrett's wearing a Titans jersey, trying to get that cheap MJF heat.
Excuse me. Double J not only was doing it before MJF was even born. Secondly, it's Double J. He can do whatever he wants.
Nash makes a bunch of old jokes about how they're lucky that Nitro starts taping at 8 and they were able to get the early bird special. And I do love Terry Funk, but him explaining the matches for Jarrett and just for everybody was just a confusing mess. He basically says that Jarrett's going to have 3 matches that night. Actually, I wasn't clear as to who was getting the 3 matches until Jarrett was like, oh, so I'm getting 3 matches? I'm like, all right. I was under the impression that one of them was a regular match, and then one was a... No, I know.
Terry Funk definitely says it's a regular match.
Yeah, okay. He says it's a regular match, a bunkhouse brawl, and then a cage match. And so we'll get into my thoughts on how that's presented in a little bit. And then basically he's gonna wrestle against all of Terry Funk's best friends, not the guys that are in the ring, and Chris Benoit is going to referee all the matches. And then he basically says Bret and Nash are gonna wrestle, and Bret Hart says, we can't do that, we're like brothers, which was funny. And Terry Funk basically says, if you don't wrestle, you'll be fined $50,000 apiece. And also Bret will be stripped of the world title. And so obviously Nash is like, I don't care about money. I got plenty of money. And Bret's like, I don't care about money. I got plenty of money. And then Funk's like, and I'll also take away your title. And they're like, no, you can't take away the title. And I'm like, this is all very contradictory, and not contradictory, but I feel like they're repeating themselves and learning new information at different points. So it was just a very convoluted thing. And then Steiner grabs the mic, and then they do like a thing where he's getting censored. And yes, Kevin, that was on the original feed. And Terry Funk says he's going to wash out Scott Steiner's mouth with soap. And that's pretty much it for that segment. There were some good things in there, but man, that was a train wreck.
It was too long, but this was the era of a Monday Night Wrestling program having a 20-plus minute promo segment to set up the show.
Yeah. So Buff Bagwell's here, and he's going to get a face-to-face confrontation with DDP, where there are no blows allowed for the first 5 minutes. Kimberly arrives in a limo. We get a recap of some of the fisticuffs between DDP and Bagwell. And then basically they grab their mics and they're talking. And it's a bunch of like, oh, you're hitting on my wife. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm a great listener, Buff says. We're just friends. And it gets down to the 5-minute mark. And it almost seems like, I know that they're going to, it's going to lead to the match. But it almost seems like they get to a point in the conversation where they're like, well, I kind of see your point. Well, I kind of see your point. And then like the 5 minutes are up. And then the birthmark thing happens where Buff Bagwell's like, yeah, I saw the birthmark. All the boys in the back did. And then obviously DDP goes nuts and starts fighting him. But bad segment. They should have just had it be, hey, listen, this is going to be a no physicality face-to-face, just like they do in AEW all the time with the backstage stuff. Just be like, if you guys fight before the pay-per-view, you're going to get fined, but you can't, come to blows in this. I don't know, but it was bad.
Again, not like in theory, okay. The things that I was focused on, that they on commentary were saying that Buff Bagwell was still a kid. First of all, he was a 30-year-old man. It was his birthday. Second of all, he had been in the company as a regular competitor for over 9 years at this point. And the way that the thing was shot, the cameraman was lovingly focused on Buff's bald spot. So that did him no favors as being a kid either.
Well, he should have never stopped wearing the top hat.
He should have never stopped wearing the top hat. And I think anyone up to and including Arn Anderson would look like a kid standing next to DDP.
Yeah. All right, so we go backstage. The NWO is talking. Nash is willing to just lay down for Brett, but I guess Brett is too much of a hard-headed jerk to take Nash's help. So they kind of go back and forth a little bit, and Brett's like, "Well, I take pride in the championship. I'm a 12-time champ." And Nash, I don't know how many times he was, but he
said he was a 5-time champ.
A 5-time champ, and Nash is like, "Well, I was a 3-time champ. Maybe I'll be a 4-time by the end of the show." So they're kind of laying the groundwork that this could be a competitive match, but if you don't know where this goes, you just assume it's going to be just a fuck finish. Well, it was a fuck finish, spoiler, but you assume it's going to be like a lay down or something to that effect. But no, we get a match at the end, spoiler. So Jarrett comes out for his first match, unless you want to talk about Brett and Nash. I
like Bret Hart. I like Kevin Nash. I didn't want to see them fight. I just wanted them to see them be friends, nay brothers.
Yeah. So Jarrett comes out with a wheelbarrow full of plunder, and we find out that his opponent is George the Animal Steel. Yay. And it's not a wrestling match. I wrote down that, like, why isn't the wrestling match first? Was in my notes. Because I'm like, that's how you do it. You do a wrestling match, and then you do a little bit more gimmicked, and then you do the big blow off of the cage match. So I was confused in my notes that why they're not just having a wrestling match, but this is the bunkhouse brawl. So Jarrett takes probably the worst garbage can shots that I've ever seen. His hand that he's putting up to protect himself is about 1.5 feet away from his head. But then he eats a chair that like George just kind of throws at him. George eats a turnbuckle and then takes a guitar shot. And then Arn Anderson comes in and does a spine buster, and George the Animal Steel wins because Benoit pulled him over. Yay, WCW, everybody.
Okay. So this is my question for you. What notes do I have here? Okay. Who is older? Double J today or George Steele in this match?
I only just because I looked at Kevin's notes and he had all the age. I'm going to assume Jarrett's older now.
No. So Double J. So I can't tell you how old Double J is because it'll give away the other ones. Okay. But George Steele is older than Double J today in this match.
How old was? Can you give me context? So
George Animal Steel was 62.
Oh, okay, and what's Jarrett's like? Probably in his late 50s.
I can't say because we have two more matches.
I'm just talking. I'm saying it out loud. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So we go backstage and we have Jarrett talking to Nash because at this point Nash and Hart are in separate locker rooms, taping up and all that stuff. And your boy Jeff Jarrett tells Kevin Nash to throw that Canadian goof out of the NWO. I just don't understand how you could throw your support behind somebody that would talk about Mr. Hitman that way. But Nash is like, no, I'll win the belt and then we'll throw him out. So very weird that like we're in the very infancy of the NWO 2000 and they're already just like, yeah, fuck that guy, fuck the champion, we're gonna get rid of him. But it is what it is. So we have the Stevie Ray promo. Booker turned his back on the Hood, wearing all his fancy suits. Booker T comes out. He refuses to wrestle his brother. And then he changes his mind. He's like, yeah, I'll wrestle my brother. So they're having a match. Yay.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a waste of Booker T, but they needed to do something to like close him being a tag team wrestler and move him on to being a full-time singles wrestler.
Yeah. So another Jeff Jarrett match, and hey, this is a dungeon match, which you could win by pinfall, submission, or throwing your opponent out to the floor.
Okay, I need to make one thing clear because it's very important. It's not if you so it's not if you throw your opponent out to the floor. If you leave the ring, you lose the match. Okay.
Okay.
This is a crucial bit of business. Because they say that typically a dungeon match is wrestled with no ropes on the ring either.
Okay.
These are two key points that are going to be important in about a month.
Yeah, and you're right. They did say they did explain it that way, that if you leave the ring. I just wrote it down wrong. But obviously this is news to the viewer because it was introduced earlier by Funk as just being a wrestling match. But anyways... Terry Funk's good personal friend, who's coming out to get that pop against Jeff Jarrett, is Tito Santana. Terry Funk has done it again. This is amazing, says Tony Schiavone. So Jarrett comes out. He shoves a member of the Buffalo Bills, Ted Washington, and Orndorff, and then jumps Santana. And then Orndorff comes in and pile drives Jarrett, and Ted Washington gets involved, and then Benoit does a fast count, and Tito Santana wins. And Tito just looked great.
Okay, I want to just throw this out here. January 2000, Tito Santana was considered washed. An old man. He had not been on national TV at this point for the better part of 7 years, okay?
Yeah, he was probably just doing like the basketball gym shows.
Right. World Star Wrestling for Johnny Glitter and stuff like that, right? Who was older, Tito in this match or Double J today?
Jarrett.
Double J today. Tito Santana is 48 years old here.
Ugh.
Okay? Yeah. I want you to keep that in mind. And something that I noticed as Tito's making his comeback, Bobby gets a plug in on commentary for Tito's wife's nail salon in Jersey City.
That's part of the deal.
But that's one of those things that, like, because, in WWF, Bobby would bury Tito all the time, right? On commentary, because he's the heel. But, like, there were certain guys that he would always give it to, like, a little bit more,
Yeah.
And it's fun, like, years later to find out that obviously, like, the fact that he throws a plug in for his wife's nail salon on commentary, him and Tito were probably really good friends.
Sure.
Yeah. So, like, it's always funny to see, like, the heel commentator give it to their buddy just a little bit more on TV,
Yeah. All right, so we get a quick commercial or notice that Thunder is moving to Wednesdays at 9:05 or 8:05. I don't know, but it's moving to Wednesdays. It's special again.
Right. They really hammered home. Hey, guys, watch Thunder. We're doing shit over at Thunder again. Please watch.
So Tank Abbott comes out, and oh boy, this is of all the Tank Abbott promos, this was the most Tank Abbott one. But he basically talks about that big fat old duck boy, Doug Dillinger, finding him a bunch of times, and he's inviting Dillinger to come out and take a free shot at Tank Abbott. So Doug Dillinger comes out. He does actually, after just getting berated and called Duck Boy and quacking at him and all that shit for a while, Dillinger does punch Tank in the face and then just gets laid out, and Tank's, laying the boots to him, and security comes out and tries to handcuff him, and then gets him handcuffed, and then Jerry Flynn comes out and throws a kick, and oh hey, there's a match between Tank Abbott and Jerry Flynn on the pay-per-view that everybody should care about.
This segment was real bad.
Yeah.
I do want to let you know, Vince Russo loved Tank Abbott.
Because it's like a legitimate, athlete. It's like his Ken Shamrock in his mind, probably,
Yes.
And I wrote this down in the notes. It has nothing to do with anything. Do you think, I'm sure the answer to this is yes, but in the archives, the warehouses in Stanford, are the big WCW entrances there somewhere?
Probably like in pieces, but yes.
Oh yeah, I'm assuming it's not all one. Like it's not like when Vince walks in the fucking W and C parts, so you can walk in. But I was just wondering when I look at episodes of WCW, I'm like, where is that stuff now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so for the final. Actually, before we even get to the match, this one is spoiled with the limo shot, and we're getting Jimmy Snuka for fuck's sake.
So just real quick, so they do the deal where because all the other reveals were Arn talking to someone in the limo, and that's your teaser on the commercial break, like who was in the limo that Arn was talking to, and then the legend comes out, and then for the last one, Jimmy Snuka, right? Yeah. So Jimmy Snuka gets out of the limo, and his left eye is fucked up. Like he was sleeping in there and his eye had crusted over and he couldn't open it up. And it looked really scary. Okay.
Yeah.
Not to say that Jimmy Snuka don't look scary in the first place. But before we get to the match, who's older? Double J today or Jimmy Snuka when this match took place?
Jimmy Snuka.
They are both the same age. 55 years old.
All right, I get it. Jeff Jarrett looks great for his age, Joe. Do you want me to say it?
Jeff Jarrett looks great. Jeff Jarrett looks great for my age. He looks great for everyone's age. Jeff Jarrett, ain't he great?
All right, so before the match, we see it's funny because we have a shot of Kevin Nash laying down, stretching, and then Bret Hart laying down and stretching, and then they cut to Benoit laid out, and I was like, oh, he's stretching.
So I thought that was a really cool camera thing to do. You know what I mean?
Do you think it was intentional?
Yes.
Oh, I don't give him that much credit.
A blind squirrel finds an acorn every now and then, Adam.
All right, so even though he's taken out, he does return for the cage match, and we are blessed with having two murderers in the ring at the same time, allegedly. Maybe three. You never know with Jared. He might.
I just say Double J never. Oh, Benoit and Jimmy Snuka. Okay, all right.
I was gonna say Jarrett might have made three. So anyways, they have their match, and there's just a bunch of fuckery with all the old age outlaws, and Snuka goes to the top of the cage and does his Superfly thing. Benoit does a diving headbutt off the top of the cage, and I hate the fact that Kevin has this in his write-up, because this was in my notes. I was going to say, let's hope that doesn't have any long-term effects on his health. And like I said, I like dunking on Jeff Jarrett as much as the next guy. It's fun. But watching all these old guys that he's wrestling over the course of this entire show was just bad, man. If you told me, okay, we're going to punish Jeff Jarrett, we're going to put him through this gauntlet of having him wrestle 3 times in increasingly more difficult matches, have him in there with WCW wrestlers. He doesn't have to have a knockdown 5-star match, but have one squisher, have one guy give him a little bit of trouble, and have one guy have a competitive match. It doesn't have to be a bunch of people you got off of a bus stop.
So they were in Buffalo. They were in New York. Vince Russo was fans of all these guys and thought by using these guys in the New York territory, bro, it would have popped the TV number. But Tony Schiavone even mentioned, George Steele was never in any of whatever WCW ended up being. Jim Crockett Promotions, Georgia Championship Wrestling, Florida, whatever it was. George Steele never competed in any of those promotions, okay?
Yeah.
Jimmy Snuka did. Tito Santana did. But Tito Santana was there very briefly. Jimmy Snuka had not been in that territory that this company was based off for 22 years prior, okay?
Yeah.
So it was essentially Russo just trying to book WWF stuff against the WCW backdrop, and it didn't work. And Jeff was given a horrible task to go out there and carry the load of these matches with guys that were washed, guys that were over their prime, or past their prime, and I thought Jeff did as good as a job that he could have done with what he was given.
Yeah, I don't fault Jeff Jarrett. I don't want to sound like, that's what I'm doing, but it was just overall bad TV because, spoiler, we're about to go into the main event, and if you don't count all these, elderly matches against Jarrett, there was 2 matches on this entire show.
So I count the elderly matches, but let's say 5 matches on the show, which is still pretty low for a 2-hour show.
Yeah. All right. Backstage, we have the Old Age Outlaws. They actually tied up Scott Steiner, and Terry Funk sticks a bar of soap in his mouth like he promised. And I actually like the fact that they figured out a way to deplete Steiner's strength somehow, and they got him at his weakest point. So good on them. So we go to the main event, Hart versus Nash. The bell rings with 13 minutes left of the show. And I have to ask, was Bret Hart wrestling in jorts and a T-shirt at this time? Or was it just post getting kicked in the head?
Post getting kicked in the head.
All right, because he was just like, fuck it, I'm not wearing gear. I'm just going to wear sneakers. And
because he if you saw the clips from the beginning on Thunder where the Thunder prior, he wrestled Terry Funk, and he was essentially wearing the same thing that he was wearing here, jorts and an NWO T-shirt.
Gotcha. All right, just curious. They have a match. It was actually great by Nitro standards. Probably terrible by Bret Hart standards, but for what I've grown to expect from WCW 2000, it was actually a pretty good match. It was competitive. There was no laying off of each other. There wasn't the NWO chicanery that I expected. They actually had a competitive match where their pride forced them to try to compete against each other. But Arn Anderson shows up wearing a ref shirt and hits Nash with the pipe because we can't have nice things in WCW. Then Sid Vicious comes out, attacks Bret Hart. They start lowering the cage. Sid powerbombs Bret Hart. And the match ends with Arn Anderson counting as the referee, counting Sid as the winner over Bret. Absolute garbage ending there. But then Terry Funk runs out and brands Kevin Nash on the stomach, which almost made it a charming ending to the show. But what a way to ruin a potentially fun match.
Okay. A couple things to mention. A ton of things to mention. So, if you didn't watch this match, I want you to go back and watch this match again if you can, listeners. Okay. So Bret Hart is working with a concussion. Okay. So he gets the concussion from Bill Goldberg 3 weeks prior at Starrcade. He then wrestles this match and a match against Terry Funk the week prior. Okay. He has a concussion. He should not be wrestling. Knowing what we know now. Storyline, Scott Steiner's not wrestling tonight because he has a concussion and he's not cleared to wrestle, storyline-wise. During the course of this match, they mentioned that Double J got a concussion from the match that he just had with Jimmy Snuka, okay? Mm-hmm. So WCW is the walking wounded at this point. But I want you to watch this match. And I want you to look at every move that these guys do to each other. Bret Hart is a pro's pro, and Kevin Nash does not get enough credit for how good of a worker he was. There's a bunch of times where it looks like he is killing Bret on some of those elbows and some of those kicks. But if you're watching real close, you're seeing you're looking at half an inch of daylight on those shots, and it's all them working together. Bret doing the sell at the right time, Kev doing the stomp, the whole thing. These two had such great chemistry together, underrated chemistry. And I really like this match. I know you said it was good for what we got. It was good for a Nitro match. But I think if this didn't have a fuck finish, I think people would remember this a lot more, since this essentially, for until the fucking match with Vince at WrestleMania, this is Bret's last match.
Yeah. I wrote down this hypothetical. If there was going to be a Thanos snap, and not only would they be blinked out of existence, but all of your memory of their past matches, their past promos, all of that would go away. And you have to snap either Mr. Hitman or Big Sexy out of existence. Who you doing, Joe? And you can't say neither. Or you can't say, I'll just snap myself out of existence. One of them's got to go.
If I'm picking Kevin, I'm sorry, you got to go, my friend.
Wow.
I think Brett just has like a longer legacy. He means a lot more to the business. They both mean a lot to the business, but if you're making me choose one, Kev, you got to go. I'm sorry.
See, I'm not upset with you picking Nash. I'm upset that it didn't take you longer.
Yeah. I like Mr.
Right.
Hitman.
Yeah. So if I have to say, when it comes to this episode of Nitro, I try to be as impartial as possible.
Yes.
And I have a scale set in place.
Uh-oh.
And it's whether or not the show had Miss Hancock or Tori Wilson on it. And this show did not, so it gets a thumbs down from me.
Oh, come on. So I just want to say before you assign your homework for next week, okay?
Yep.
As we leave the show, here is the card for Sold Out this upcoming Sunday, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Brett defending the world title against Sid. Double J defending the world title in a 3 stages of hell match against Chris Benoit.
The United States, right?
The United States Championship, yes.
Yep.
We have the Filthy Animals versus the Revolution in some sort of multi-person match because the franchise was teasing a mystery man as part of the Revolution for that multi-person match taking place at the pay-per-view, right?
Okay.
We got Oklahoma versus Medusa for the Juicerweight title. We have Booker's T versus Stevie Ray. We have Lightning Foot Jerry Flynn taking on Tank Abbott. And we also have Buff Bagwell versus DDP. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is the pay-per-view card that they built up on this episode of Nitro. We got 1 episode of Thunder before then. I'm sure that pay-per-view is going to happen exactly as planned.
All right, well, we'll say, Oh,
and I forgot. And we also have Terry Funk versus Kevin Nash with the commissionership of World Championship Wrestling on the line.
Oh, yep. Okay. I already know what happens there.
Okay.
All right. Joe, you have a plan in place for your show homework?
Yes.
I have a theme for my show homework. And we're going to watch another wrestling movie. And if you watched AEW this past week, you might have seen a women's tag match. And in that match, one of the wrestlers screamed out repeatedly, "This is my house. This is my house. This is my house. This is my house." Well, Joe, wouldn't you like to see a documentary? It's practically a documentary, if you ask me, about how she learned all those things. That's right, Joe. We're going to watch Fighting with My Family. Have you seen it?
No, I've never seen this.
Excellent. I was hoping you never saw it.
I heard it's not bad.
I've seen it before. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm not assigning you a crap movie. I'm just assigning you something that you otherwise wouldn't have watched. You know?
You're correct. I would not have watched this. From
And
the Rock's
I was going to say Florence Pugh is in it, and she's all right. I'm a big fan of the new Black Panther, Black Widow.
Mm-hmm. Let me go ahead and purchase this film right now.
Oh, nice. I might have to have you send that over to me. I didn't check to see if it was available on my streaming service.
It is not. So again, I checked. You could buy it like I did, or you could rent it off Apple TV for $4. You could like rent it off like Vudu or Redbox or Amazon, whatever. It's not streaming free anywhere, so I plunked down my $3.99 so I could watch this. Wink.
Well, you put it on the company card, right?
Right, of course.
Okay, cool. So yes, we're going to be watching Fighting with My Family, starring The Rock, Vince Vaughn, and Florence Pugh.
Mm-hmm. All the stars are there. All right, let's get into how your other little bit shook out from this past week.
As long as you play the music.
the gender-neutral monarch of At Odds Wrestling.
That is right, Joe. The first round of the fourth annual-ish gender-neutral monarch of At Odds Wrestling has been completed. And I'm not even going to lie, I was following these results like it was election day. I was refreshing. I had the actual desktop browser open on my laptop so I can get the exact numbers. I was corresponding with other concerned parties. Some of these came down to the wire. But we're going to go over the matchups one by one, let you know what happened. You can give your thoughts. And then at the end, I will let you know who will be facing who in the next round. How's that sound?
Go for it.
All right, so in our opening matchup, in what many people, other than you, of course, consider to be the number one seed of this tournament, the Boar defeated Big Sue 77% to 23%.
Some would say that Big Sue was done dirty, but after what's happened to the Boar the last 3 years in this tournament, I think no matter who he was facing, they were going down in the first round.
And again, I'll say this. Am I conspiring against the Boar? Am I conspiring for the Boar? You people need to make up your mind what narrative you want to push here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so...
Uh-huh, sure.
Yeah, all right. You guys can't have it all. You can't have it both ways. But next matchup, we have the selection from Final Wrestling Place, Mandy Rose, facing Rex Lawless. And Mandy Rose advances with 63% of the vote.
Rex is a good guy. Rex has been putting together in a very ravishing Rex Lawless sort of way, but Mandy Rose is in the public eye a little bit more than he is, and I think that kind of played in her favor.
Yep. All right, so next up we have the We Need Wrestling pick of Max the Impaler versus CPA. And then what many people will call an upset, CPA wins with 53% of the vote.
I would say this is an upset for sure. Nothing against either competitor. I just think CPA wanted it more. He's a very hungry guy. I saw him looking for something over by a dumpster earlier today. Could have been a sandwich. Who knows?
Yeah, CPA was definitely, he was retweeting this. He was definitely invested. Max was probably like skinning an animal somewhere. Couldn't be bothered with it,
Exactly.
Next up, we have the Wrestling Cheers pick of Isaiah Broner versus Cheeseburger. Now, this was honestly the closest competition out of the entire tournament. This went back and forth at like 49-51, 50%, 50%, back and forth up until seconds before the polls closed. And with 51% of the vote, Cheeseburger advances.
Wow. I would say not an upset, but this was probably the evenest matchup of the first round, as you mentioned. I said last week that this one really could have gone either way, and the voting kind of played that out. I'm shocked Burger ended up pulling out in the end. That's awesome.
Yep. Shame on you, Justin Summers. You should have done more. Just saying. Next up, we have the Hit My Music selection of Jade Newman versus Ziggy Heim. And this was another squisher. Ziggy wins with 76% of the vote.
Yeah, Jaden seems like a nice kid, but Ziggy's another one. Just our fan base, our listenership, our extended family of wrestling podcasts, they were picking Ziggy, 7 days a week, twice on Sunday.
Yeah, I appreciate DeWicki, nominating somebody that, he's familiar with and likes, and I'm sure Jaden's awesome, but obviously, like you said, the exposure is just not there for our listeners,
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Derek Dillinger versus the face of women's wrestling.
The face?
The face. And Dillinger wins with 60% of the vote.
Maybe an upset to some, not an upset in my opinion. I said last week if this was Tay Conti, not Tay Mello, the jobber clobberer of AEW Dark and Dark Elevation, we might have had a different outcome. And if some of the pictures that I saw leaked out from Rampage, no spoilers, I think if this voting took place after people saw the match that's on Rampage this week, Derek might not have won.
I mean, the fact that Tay got 40% of the vote, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you here, I did not vote for Tay. Mm-hmm. So the fact that she got 40% of the vote is actually surprising. You know, I figured Dillinger would run away with it, but good for him.
For sure.
Next up, and obviously that was the Indie Wrestling Guide pick, Dillinger. Next up, we have the Pod Van Dam, the final Pod Van Dam pick, Alabama Doink versus Maserati Wes Barkley. Wes is another guy who was hungry for this. He tweeted out multiple times that if he loses this, it's rigged. It is possible to be rigged and for you to win it, Maserati. And this is one that Alabama Doink was in the lead handily for most of the week, but Wes Barkley pulls off the win with 52% of the vote.
This was a toss-up. I voted for Wes on this one. Wes is my dude. Alabama Doink is funny to go on, but if only there was a podcast that could have put all of their strength behind Alabama Doink. But you know, that's your legacy now.
And in the final matchup, we have Joe Sposto's pick of Double J, Jeff Jarrett. That's JEFF. JARRETT, that's Double J, Jeff Jarrett, against Dylan Hornswoggle Postel. I don't know the thing as well as you do. The 6 WrestleManias, Starve Muppets Most Wanted, Leprechaun Origins, Chocolate Sticky Fingers and Doo-Doo, whatever. This one was close at many times, but aside from the first couple hours of voting, there's a man who grabbed the lead and never gave it up. And he proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, with a tear in my eye, that sometimes Jeff Jarrett does lose. Swoggle wins with 56% of the vote. Hell yeah! Justice is restored.
So what are the next round matches there, Adam?
You don't have anything? No, nothing. All right. Just don't want to let that linger for a little bit? No? Yep. All right. Sometimes Jarrett loses. Anyways, the next round. These are your matchups. On the left side of the bracket, we have The Boar versus Mandy Rose.
Tough pick. This is Boar's tournament to lose at this point. I'm picking The Boar.
Okay.
Unless some other news, information, dalliances, story, something comes out about Mandy Rose in the next couple days that puts her name into the headlines again. You know, the steam's starting to come off a little bit, and The Boar is just hot all the time.
All right, in our next match, we have CPA versus Cheeseburger, another matchup that could happen in real life.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think these two have ever crossed paths, but this is making me want to see them cross paths in the real world. I like both these guys. They're both really good guys. They're both very good wrestlers as well. This is your pick 'em. I could go either way on this one.
Yeah, and I'd like to address allegations that I was somehow helping CPA win this tournament, or at least get him votes, and I 100% disagree with that. I may have thrown my weight behind somebody in this tournament, but obviously my co-host threw his weight behind his opponent. But again, I was not standing for CPA. In a completely unrelated thing, I appreciate the shirt that CPA sent me, and I will tweet out a picture of that later on. So on the other side of the bracket, we have Ziggy versus Derek Dillinger.
The production explodes. This is another one that, if these guys want to win, the people that nominated are going to have to really put their full strength behind them. Coin flip, I'm picking Derek, only because he threw Nightmare Freddy on top of me.
Now, let me ask you this. And obviously, at this point, it's fair to kind of make a guess here, but do you see this being like a 51%, 49% vote, or do you see this being like an 80-20?
Okay, I see CPA cheeseburger being like your 51-49.
Well, no, I just meant with like Ziggy and Derek.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. So I see CPA and Burger, Ziggy and Derek being real close. Like they're not like those two matchups are going to be within like 2 to 3% of each other.
Okay. In our final matchup, we have Wes Barkley versus Swoggle.
DX 2022 explodes. I'm going with Wes Barkley.
Yeah, I think Wes will pull that off, especially since I certainly have no further use of Swoggle.
Uh-huh.
He's done his job.
Uh-huh.
But yes, that is your final 8 competitors in the 2022 late gender-neutral Monarch tournament.
Right.
I will go ahead.
And maybe this time Adam will put the polls up when he says he's gonna, and maybe this time he'll let them actually run the time that he says that they're gonna.
They were, all right, first of all, I said yes. I said that they would start at 5 p.m. and run for 6 days.
Uh-huh.
I put them up at 4 p.m. and they ran for 6 days.
Okay.
So it was an hour difference because I actually had to be somewhere at like 4:45, and I didn't want to be like tweeting in my car. So that's why it's not like, I was like, I'm only going to give the Jarrett Swoggle one 5 days. And it's not like you can't look at the time remaining where it says, 3 hours remaining, 2 hours remaining, whatever. So if you were waiting to the last minute to put all your Jarrett votes in, if you're somehow like, let's just say hypothetically, you were like waiting to sandbag a bunch of votes in at the last second and put them in so late that there was no way for the opponent to like mount a resistance, then I guess you got screwed. But it's not like it wasn't public information that they went up at 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, like, if that was your plan, or just hypothetically somebody out there's plan to just wait until like a couple minutes before 5 and just dump in all the votes, then shame on that person for not looking at the clock. And I'm actually happy if that was the plan that they got thwarted.
Nope.
Anyways, I'll just say this. Tomorrow, Friday, sometime around 4 or 5, I'm not sure. Check Twitter. The polls will be up for you guys to vote, and they'll be up for 6 days. And also, a special shout out to my buddy Shawnee Caulfield for no reason in particular. Good guy. Yep. Good guy. I like that.
Sure.
Guy. He's got potential. Nice guy. But, that's it.
So before we get into the voicemail, anything else?
No. I think let's just go ahead and hit the voicemail.
We're not doing this?
Oh, I wasn't even looking at your screen. I guess we could do that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have that in my notes. You're allowed to just say it. Yeah, the 4th annual At Odds with Wrestling Royal Rumble opportunity. I set it into a microphone on Sports Talk.
Right.
I'm sorry, I was not looking at my screen when you were highlighting something there. So, yeah, so in the past couple years, we did this gimmick where if you would like to basically buy a random number, and you don't get to say, I'd like to buy number 30 or I'd like to buy number 1, but basically you say, I would like to buy a spot in the men's rumble, or 3 spots in the men's rumble, or 1 spot in the men's and the women's rumble. However you want to do it, basically you have to let Joe know.
No.
You're okay. I'm sorry. We were very unclear about this, but it is 5. It is 5. Yeah, we spent like 10 minutes going over this before the show, but that was like hours ago. It is $5 per spot. If you would like a spot, you will PayPal me $5 or $10 or $20 or $50 and let me know what the spots are. So like I want 2 spots in the men's and 1 in the women's or whatever. So DM me at the man Adam Van on Twitter so I know it's coming. And my PayPal is themanadamvan@gmail.com. So send that $5 or $10 or whatever, PayPal friends and family. You send it goods and services, I will eliminate you and steal your money. But no, I won't do that, but I'll be very mad and it'll make things bad. But so DM me, And shoot me the PayPal. I'm handling the money because Joe's PayPal got broskied.
Well, PayPal broskied anyone that has a business account.
Yeah.
Because I do all the payouts on the podcast and stuff, with Patreon and the Amazon click-throughs and everything else like that, and, selling the merch and all that sort of jazz and setting it up for, like, TeePublic. For the longest time, you could send and receive money, friends and family from a business account, and then it was around, like, the summer of this year? Like, summer of 2022?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Right. They changed it over if you have a business account, which I do because it's through the podcast and whatever. They changed it that I can't. Like, I could send you money, and I don't get charged a fee, but if you send me money for any reason, it charges you the fee. So Adam was gracious enough to use his account this year for the money. You got, as of listening to this, you tell me what time we're cutting it off. It usually goes pretty quick, I'll be completely honest with you. But we're going to do the drawing on the show next week, because I think next weekend is the Royal Rumble.
The week after. I think we have this show and next show, right?
Because the Rumble's the 28th, right. So we're going to do the drawing in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the 26th. So, if it fills up by next week, we can do the drawing. It doesn't matter. But I say we wait till the 26th one way or another, because then you got that Royal Rumble like mood. Yeah, a couple days from there. But yeah, so shoot me a DM just in case I don't recognize your email, and just let me know what the spots are for first, and then pay me.
And I'll say this just to kind of, as someone who did this the previous 3 years, because I was just having people PayPaling me money and then messaging me and saying like, oh, I sent you the money, I want X amount of spots. And then I was having to refund money back to them because we were out of spots, right?
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, so message Adam first before you send him the money, just to double check to make sure there's spots available. Yeah,
so the Man Adam Van is my Twitter. If you DM me to buy in and you're not following me, I'm also going to be sad. But and then the Man Adam Van at gmail.com is my PayPal. So, but again, just DM me. And we'll figure it out. But sorry about that confusion there, Joe.
No problem. Just wanted to make sure, obviously, that everything was square in that regard. Yep. So, let's get into some voicemails here. We got a ton.
Hi, guys. It's Andy Header. I think they should have put the belts on Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal this week. I was calling before Rampage, so maybe I'll call back if they win them. But I think it'd be fun. Like, imagine if they had a name that was like, the team name was like TNA, and was like total nonstop awesome. I think that'd get a lot of heat with the AEW crowd. And then just drop the belts back to Acclaim in like a month or two. Or save it to the pay-per-view, whenever that is. I think that'd be cool. I don't know. And since I totally alienated Adam here, I have an F. Marry Kill, very classy. I have an F. Marry Kill for you, Adam. Okay, so F. Marry Kill. Sky Blue, Alexa Bliss, and height-overpowered Stacy Keibler, Miss Hancock. So that's your three choices. All right. See you guys later. Bye.
That's actually a lot easier. I'd probably have to, unfortunately, kill Sky Blue just because she's she's new to the game, and the other two are goats in my mind. So I guess I'll marry Alexa Bliss, and I'll F Stacy Keibler.
All right. I got no regards to that, but I do agree with Andy that Double J should win not just the tag titles, but all the titles.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you. Next call.
Hey, boys. This is Dan. Been a long time since I called. Almost called last week, actually. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I think it was Kevin's call. His question was super similar to what mine is going to be, but different enough that I still want to ask it anyway. Just would be kind of lame on the same episode. So I'm wondering, what are some of the new match types that have kind of emerged over the last couple of years that you just find interesting and fun? I was thinking about this because I watched Pizza Party Pros Pop. Love that name. They had a Floor is Lava Battle Royal. So the winner gets a novelty drinking hat, which is placed like 10 feet away from the ring. and the floor is lava. So if you touch the ground, you're dead. or / out of the match. And it's just interesting because it's, you know, it's a battle royal. Everyone starts in the ring, and there's some really fun people. There's like King Crab, Shane McCoy, Big Game Leroy, and yet, because the floor is lava, you can't have someone say go through the middle of the ropes and then still be safe, because it doesn't matter because they didn't go over the top rope. So it's like it made them have to be more creative about what they could do to tell the story of the match. And I just found that awesome. Love that. Also, found out that the local shindy near me has an all cage match show coming up. And they start the show with an outside-in battle royal with the cage, where they like hang like a Money in the Bank briefcase or like a clipboard with a contract or something halfway up the cage in one of the corners. Everyone starts outside the ring, and then you just gotta try to get the thing off the side of the cage. I watched one of them, and it's amazing because, like, you know how wrestlers suddenly don't know how to climb ladders when it gets towards the time of the match where they're climbing the ladder to get the belt? Yeah, well, imagine if, like, the thing they're trying to get, a normally tall person could just grab just standing in the ring. So the people are, like, climbing the turnbuckles just super slowly, trying to make it dramatic. And I just love it. I can't wait. It's gonna be such a good time. So, yeah. Are there any new to you concepts, matches, whatever, that you just have found super interesting? Bye.
That match that you just described, that's something that sounds like I would definitely want to watch, because my answer would just be like that kind of silly comedy stuff that you would see on indie shows, like going back to the Orange Cassidy WrestleMania weekend show where they had the 1 minute Iron Man match between Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, and then they had the match that was like a scramble where you were fighting over like an Applebee's gift card for like $1.78 or something like that. Like I like those types of matches. So that rumble with the floor is lava and stuff like that, that sounds awesome.
It's tough to think of a new match concept because either everything's been done or nobody knows how to work it. Like the promoter or their booker will have something in their head and they're trying to convey it to these 2 people or 3 people or 10 people, however many people are in the match, and it just never works out the way that it's on paper. So it sounds like the floor is lava one at least kind of sort of worked out. The fact that there's an indie promotion, and Dan said shindy promotion, that's doing an all cage match show, like I want to see what that cage looks like, because I've never seen a good cage on a shindy, right? They all look like dog shit, but I'll say the best gimmick match of like recent time is Money in the Bank. You know, like that golden ticket sort of thing where you could cash in at any time. You know, if it was made special instead of like a pay-per-view of its own design, which it currently is, but when it was just like a special attraction match, I thought that was like a really good match. And, you know, something that WWE did really well, like the first like 2 or 3 times that they did it, and they kind of, you know, watered it down and ruined it and everything else like that. But Money in the Bank's my pick. Yeah,
my favorite was the one they were on like Titan Tower, and like Rey Mysterio got thrown off the roof, but then you found out he was just thrown down to a secondary roof.
Right. And Brucey was in that match.
That is true.
So it makes it good just for that.
Yeah.
All right, next call.
Hey there, gentlemen. It is Ronnie Two Legs. Just calling back. I had a good show last week. Thanks for playing my call. I was just going to say, though, man, who fucking did me dirty on that one, man? Alabama Doink versus Wes Barkley, my guy versus my guy. Like, man, what the fuck? Yeah, I feel like that was a deliberate sabotage. You know, how you gonna do me dirty like that, man? That's rough. I have no how am I supposed to choose to vote between one of those two? You know what I mean? That's it's pretty fucked up. But I do want to thank you for mentioning the my football card group on Facebook. If you like football or wrestling cards, you could join that on Facebook. Franklin Football Card Group. I do actually have Instagram. I know Joe said I don't have social media. I just don't have Twitter. Twitter's just a cesspool of awful shit, so I'm just not around on that site. But I do have Instagram. If you want to follow me, my Instagram is @callmeron. I post mostly wrestling stuff on there, so if you want to see some AIW Day of Show stuff, I typically put a lot of story stuff on there for that. I'm pretty happy today, though. I got to spread the news, man. In-N-Out Burger they're going to open up an In-N-Out Burger in Tennessee in 2026. So I'm pretty excited. I know that's like 3 years from now, but that's pretty cool. So I wondered, is there anywhere that you guys like love to eat at, but you don't ever really get to? Because like obviously I don't live in California. I visit there. Well, before my kid, I used to visit there a lot, but I only get to eat in California, and it's slowly creeping closer and closer to me. So that makes me happy. But is there anywhere you guys like to eat at that's not in your hometown? So that's what I'll leave you with. Sorry, no kid run in this time. I'm out at work right now. My kid's at school, but yeah. So I'll leave you with that. So thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
Can I just say, as far as the Alabama Doink versus Wes Barkley thing, as somebody who's trying to book a compelling tournament, there's going to be difficult decisions to make. So I understand that was a coin flip for you, buddy, but I appreciate you making a choice.
Yeah. Pat, the first person to notice, that there might be some chicanery going on in the tournament. He's the only person I've ever heard say anything about that, so it must be an isolated thing.
Oh, Jeff Jarrett lost. Boo-hoo-hoo. But as far as food, I'm not a big go-out-to-eat guy, so I'll let you take this one, Joe.
Yeah, look at the size of me. Of course I'm a go-out-to-eat guy. Come on. I wish we still had pizza buffets around here, but obviously with the pandemic, no go. A CC's is always a good one. I wish we had an Arthur Treacher's around here. I wish all the Long John Silvers weren't drying up. We did have a Hardee's up by us in a gas station, which was fantastic. And then that closed down before the gas station itself closed down. And I think they're putting another goddamn Sheetz around here. And listen, I love Sheetz, but there's you could see one Sheetz from the other Sheetz' parking lot at this point. So many of them around here. But I would say a Hardee's would probably be my number one pick. Nothing better than a big greasy triple decker Hardy burger. Yum yum.
All right, cool.
And Mike, and I have to say condolences here, and I'm sure Pat has no problem saying this, and John put it out on social media. But John unfortunately was the victim of car theft.
Yeah, man. Every Kia owner needs to do a class action suit and sue the shit out of Kia and whoever owns TikTok. Well, I guess that's China, so that's not going to help. Sue the shit out of Kia.
Well, it's Kias and Hyundais of a certain year and so on and so forth. But John's car got stolen, and he had all the podcast equipment in the car.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the card is going to change. Is on a hiatus for right now. I know John has been working with his insurance company, and I may have put him in touch with someone who might know a thing or two about that sort of stuff. But John is currently scouring the neighborhood's Ring cameras to see if they can get any footage of the perpetrator.
Yeah. Well, I hope he finds that shit, obviously, and that sucks, but
yeah, that really sucks.
All right.
Next call.
Hey Joe, hey Adam, it's the other JB here. Just calling in, thanking you for the recommendations you gave me last week. I know it was a pretty tricky thing to do without any prep, and like what y'all gave me, I had actually just finished the trilogy of matches between Flair and Steamboat.
Yay!
Before I placed that call, so the Flair and Funk 89 feud was, it was right on my list there, so I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep going through that or take a break and go elsewhere. But thank you for that. No question or additional comment this week because I'm sure the whirlwind of the past couple of days has given y'all plenty of things to talk about already. Didn't want to see it.
Well, thanks for the call, other JB. Kudos to you. Every week your connection gets better and better, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, it's improvements. I like it.
And never think anything of dropping something like that in our laps, putting us on the spot, making us think of stuff. We don't give a topic for the voicemail, so, we're leaving it up to you, the listeners, to give us stuff to talk about,
Yeah, I never feel bad if somebody's like, oh, hey, give me some examples or whatever. I just feel bad that I can never think of any. That's all.
For sure. Next call.
Hello, Joe. Hello, Adam. It is once again Justin Summers. Last week, you guys reviewed Ready to Rumble. Your assignment for this week is, what if Ready to Rumble was being made by WWF? So recast all the wrestlers in the movie with 1999 WWF wrestlers. Later.
Okay. So Summers sends over this thing to me. I don't listen to the calls beforehand. Of what the roster looked like in 1999. Okay?
Oh, that's funny. You didn't send it to me.
Well, you two have a different set of conversations going on, right?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming we have to have our Jimmy the King character. We have to have our DDP character. Obviously, it's still going to be Jimmy Kahn's kid and David Arquette as our principal actor leads,
Yeah.
And then like everyone else is just like nameless, faceless jamokes, right?
Yeah. A lot of random people too. You need to just like blank to be like, all right, Carl Ouellette is like one of the posse members, and like we're gonna throw in like Sean Stasiak is just a random guy that's in like one of the stables.
So I'll say this. So the whatever Upton Sinclair character that Joey Pantoliano played, that's 100% being played by Vince. Okay.
Yeah,
like that's a given. Vince is in there, and you're probably going to get Patterson and Briscoe alongside of him as well, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? You get the bit with where Sinclair tells Sting like, you better do the right thing or you're fucking dead or whatever he says, right?
That's Austin.
Well, now see, to me, that's Undertaker.
Okay, I'm just thinking of like a top babyface who would want to scramble with the boss,
Yeah. Now, where we run into a bit of a problem is I think it's around this time that they're also doing Man on the Moon with Jerry Lawler, okay? And very clearly, Jimmy the King is like, a kind of sort of analog for Jerry Lawler, okay? I think you still get your Oliver Platt type person, but he's doing more of a Hulk Hogan type character. Like a say your prayers, eat your vitamins, whatever. And you get Triple H as the DDP role.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can see that. Because it's obviously DDP wasn't a top guy in WCW, and Triple H was, I guess he was kind of close to the top guy, but, he's not.
Right.
He's not Undertaker. He's not Stone Cold,
Right. So I'm like I said, I think we're torn. Like, is the Sting character Stone Cold or is it Undertaker? I could go either way. I just think, I think you've convinced me that it should be Austin.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I win this one.
Yeah.
And I guess that's really it, right?
Yeah, and like you get your faceless goons, like you're gonna get like Boss Man, you're gonna get Big Show, you're gonna get like Rodney and Pete Gas. Like I'm sure like Bradshaw and Farouk would be in there. You know what I mean? Like they have no lines, they're not doing anything. They just have to be like grunting around. But like for the main principals, like I said, you're getting Oliver Platt doing a Hogan thing, Triple H, Austin and or Undertaker,
Yeah, and then like randomly Gangrel and Devon Dudley in the background.
Right, exactly. All right. Thanks for your call, Summers. Sepia button time.
Oh.
Hello, Joe. Vansky. Your sepia button holder, Big Sue here, and I wish I were calling under better circumstances, but, you just had to do it, didn't you, Adam?
What?
I know I may not be your favorite person, seeing as I took the sepia button from your doppelganger, but to put me up against such an irresistible force as the Boar in the first round. To be fair, I wish him nothing but the best because I know you're going to try to screw him just as much as you screw me. But for today, I concede. But Adam, this won't be the last you hear from me. Happy New Year, gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
And until next week. Regards.
I mean, I do appreciate Sue conceding there. A little bit worried about what he has in store for me. I ask, like, if you were going to lose to the board, wouldn't you rather just lose right at the beginning rather than, like, lose in the finals? So I did you a favor, I guess. And the only other thing I'll say is this is the first episode of At Odds in a long time that we haven't had Jeff Jarrett's theme music played on the show. And I know the boar popped for that when he heard it. So I actually have it queued up on my phone here. So, I won't make you play the rest of it, but all right, yeah, thanks, Sue. Next call. Sounds identical to what I just played.
So I'll just play this for the rest of the show.
You can't.
So I could play two things at once, and I'm sure this next person's call won't mind, but that's strange. 2 people so far in the voicemail have said that you've been playing fast and loose with the way that the gender-neutral monarch of At Odds is run. That's, I always say, like, 1, pay it no mind. 2, it's probably, the coincidence. 3, then there might be some substance to these claims. But
yeah,
let's listen to the next.
How did that text message with Derek Sabato go? Like, how did you DM him on Twitter? Did you text him? Did you call him up and talk to him? And, to get that retweet from My World? Was that like, how did that come to be?
Next call.
Hey, fellas, what's going on? It's Kyle here over at the NEPAWrestling.com. I just had to say something about that MJF promo last night. It's just, like, I think the best promo he ever did was that promo where he talked about being discriminated against by his teammates on the football team, and they threw the quarters at him and told him to pick it up. I thought that was the best promo he ever did. So to turn around, like, what, a year later, whatever the time frame, and then literally use multiple racist tropes against the cashier, including putting that crappy nickname out there so that, mouth readers and corny fans can just pick it up, kind of really made me sick. Double the fact that there were apparently TV executives there, and I can't imagine they were super thrilled to see their big showpiece heel just being a xenophobic, racist piece of crap. So, I don't know, that's just me. The world is already horrible enough as it is, I guess. I just really don't want to see racism, sexism, or xenophobia in my professional wrestling. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Also, double down for transphobia as well. Anything like that is just pretty disgusting. So that's my piece. Love the show. Love you guys. Hope you have a great day. Thanks.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about it, and like any other week, I feel like that could have been something that we would have. That was such a rock bottom for MJF when it comes to promos, and that's a hard bottom to hit because I feel like he just keeps digging lower and lower. And the promo that Kyle makes reference to, go and look for that if you haven't seen it. It's fantastic. And MJF has had some good promos that were, I'm not going to say as good as that, but like in that neighborhood, or where you can see that promo from where he was standing, with whether it be when they was teasing his like potential babyface return or his stuff with Punk. But he's listening to you, Joe, and being like, oh, you don't like what I've been doing? Just you see, I'm going to do even more of it. Like, he's getting much worse.
It was really bad. Like, last week's promo was bad. Like, in Brian's rebuttal with like the fans there had sex with MJF's mom was bad. Like, that was bad. Yeah. And then, like, other people were like, oh, well, there's no meat on the bone for, like, a rivalry between MJF and Danielson. And, like, just off the top of my head, I was able to think of something. I tweeted it out. Mike from Virtual Pros was like, oh, I don't know why everyone's ragging on MJF's promos. They're better than everybody else on the indies. And I'm like, there hasn't been a good promo on the indies, I think, ever, right? I think the last one was maybe, like, Punk in 2005, maybe? Guys in the indies never have cut good promos. There's been good, Eddie Kingston, actually. So I'll take that back. Eddie Kingston has cut good promos as both a heel and a face. And I know there's people that are like, oh, well, what MJF does is the same thing as Eddie Kingston does. And you can kind of sort of make that argument. Like, Kingston doesn't do racist and homophobic and sexist stuff in his, but like when Eddie Kingston cuts a promo, no matter what he's cutting, I believe what he's saying. And MJF is acting. He's a theater kid. And I understand that, like, if you're a theater person, you probably look at MJF and like, oh, he's playing all of you like a fiddle. And it's like, no, he's you know, acting a role poorly, and I don't want to see this person win or lose. I just don't want to see this person. And to have him be the focal point and the champion of your promotion helps nothing. And, you know, it's going to have very diminishing returns.
Yeah. All right.
Next call. Oops, sorry, you were saying?
No, I said next call.
All right, next call.
Hello, gentlemen. Kevin here. Pretty sure I know what the majority of conversation is going to be. McMahon, some company, come back, all that fun stuff. Saudi Arabia, do you still watch it? Do you not? You know, all that stuff. Slightly different angle on here. Is Vince McMahon a horrible father?
Yes.
Now, here's my thought process. You're Stephanie McMahon. You want to be in charge of this company more than anything else in the world. You're daddy's little girl. You want to show him that you can do this just as well as he can, and you do everything you possibly can. And you know that your dad wants to give the company to your brother. Thankfully, he screws up and doesn't want it, but, you know, a little bit of both. You take over, and you're doing your best. You even get married to a wrestler who has that same dream of wanting to run the company and wanting to take Vince's example and move the company forward. But then it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So you're like, screw it. My husband just had a major heart attack. I'm going home. Can take care of him. I'm going to figure stuff out. Oh, but here's when my dad screws up. Right when I needed him to not screw up the most, I guess I'll come back and run the show. And look, we're doing very well, and everything's moving forward, and it's looking great. Oh, look, Daddy's back, and he's just going to sell the company that I thought I was getting. Stephanie was getting. So is Vince like, oh, I'll sell the company so my kids never have to work again? Probably not. I don't think he's doing it for the glory of his children and his children's children. I think he's doing it for his own glory. So meanwhile, here's Stephanie, who worked her whole life to do something, and it's ripped away from her again because of her dad's ego. I don't know. Does he get a Father's Day card? Well, that's my question here. Looking forward to the show, guys. Have a good day.
So is Vince McMahon a terrible father? Sure. I mean, he might be a halfway decent father to Shane, and he wants to screw Stephanie, literally and figuratively, and he likes money. Yeah, he's a terrible father.
So is Vince McMahon a terrible father? Easy answer, yes. Is Vince McMahon a terrible human? Yes.
Husband? You can work
is he a terrible husband? Yes.
Probably is he a terrible neighbor?
Is he a terrible neighbor? Is he a terrible lizard person? Is he a terrible promoter of professional wrestling? These days, yes. Is he a terrible businessman? These days, yes. If Stephanie and or Triple H actually thought, whether they're just like, oh, well, Vince will eventually leave the company to me, or Vince told them that he was going to leave the company to them and they believed him, that's on them.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell Vince was going to have anyone run that company other than him. Triple H got 6 months, and that's barely got 6 months. Yeah. Vince is going to outlive them all.
And the big head scratcher is like, all right, he wants the money. He's a money hungry, like all he cares about is money. And he's going to sell the company. He's going to have a fuckload of money. And then eventually, like 20, 30 years from now, he's going to die. And where's that money going to go? He's certainly not donating it to charity. So it's like, let's assume some of it goes to Shane or Stephanie or maybe Linda through a court order. Then what are they going to do? Try to buy the company back? Like, just leave them the company. Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Next call.
Hello, guys. It's the strongest man in all the land, Arthur MacArthur here. Been a while since I've called. Life getting in my way. First and foremost, let me just say I'm sorry, Adam, about your Steelers not making the playoffs. Even though you did beat us in the last week, we did kind of knock you out from our Thursday night matchup from before, so you could always blame us for that. Obviously, you could have made it, but the Dolphins said, nope, it's our time. So I guess congrats on not having a losing season again, 9-8. That extra game really helps you out there. But the meat and potatoes of all this, obviously, the elephant in the room, WWE potentially being bought. Well, not potentially, is being bought by someone. There was the fake rumors about the Saudi Arabian royal family buying it, and now they're saying maybe Disney. Let's say that anyone has infinite money. Who do you want to see buy the WWE? Who do you want to see buy them? And what do you think would happen? Have a little fun with this episode. All right, guys, that's all I got. Hopefully I'll try to call more often, and you guys have a blessed night.
Yeah, we have not talked to Artie since I'm not going to blame him, since we lost our AIW tag team titles. So it is true. He should probably call in more often. We're good luck for him. And also, if it wasn't for that extra game of the NFL season, the Steelers would have been 8-8, which is also a non-losing season. But what was this question? I forgot.
Who do we want to see by the World Wrestling Entertainment?
I said this on Sports Talk. I think Disney would be great. Marcus took exception to it because he said that Disney would just chew them up and spit them out for parts. But, I mean, I see what they did with Marvel. I see what they did with Star Wars, like Lucasfilm. Like, it's a company that isn't Saudis, so that's cool. They have, like, pretty decent human rights records in Disney, and you can go to like a Disney park section that's like WWE stuff. So I think for all those reasons, Disney's my pick.
I'll say Disney with the caveat of whoever says that their priority is making a physical Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like even if it was in the park.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's I don't care if it's NBC Universal. I don't care if it's Busch Gardens. I don't care if it's Six Flags. I don't care if it's the Hard Rock Cafe or whoever runs that. Whoever says like our number one priority is making a physical representation of the World Wrestling Entertainment Hall of Fame, that's who I want to buy the company.
Yeah, and I want it in a giant like airplane hangar size building so I can see the WCW 2000 entranceway.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be cool.
All right.
Thanks, Artie.
Thank you for your call, Artie. Last call.
Pink button time.
Hey, Joe and Adam, it's Ed. I'm hanging out here with my dog, about to go get my well-deserved Taco Bell.
Congratulations.
And I was thinking about something at work today. I want to know what you guys think, right? So somebody brought up Kurt Angle at work, and they asked why he would do something. I forget what they said he did, but I said because he shoveled Vicodin down his throat. That's why. That explains everything that Kurt Angle does. And I was just wondering, do you think like Kurt Angle is like the last like real wrestler? And not real as in like amateur. I mean real as in like Kurt Angle knew the only way he matters to this world is being a roided out fucking just monster, right? Who does phony fights and takes everything too serious, and that's all he's got. So to make that happen, he's got to shove all kinds of pills down his throat and up his nose and drink a lot and just ruin his life, because the only way he matters to this world is through phony fake fights. Right? I think he's the last one. And that's cool as shit. I guess you could say Jeff Hardy, but like Jeff Hardy not even to the extent of Kurt Angle. You know what I mean? Like Kurt Angle, like he knows that he's just a dumb fucking jock, and this is all he's got is fucking wrestling. And he doesn't matter to anyone at all in any other way. This is the only way he matters to anyone in the world. I think that's fucking cool. But am I like? Is there somebody else? Am I missing? It's got to be Kurt Angle, right? Let me know what you think. This is a fun topic. Okay, bye.
Why does Ed just want to call in and just bury Kurt Angle for 2 minutes?
Well, listen, it was talking about people doing pills and drugs and so on and so forth to extend their career. And this is one I really have to think about, because I'm sure there are people that are on a not national TV level that are heavily drugged to continue to do what they do, which is on a much smaller scale than what Kurt Angle was doing at the height of Perk Angle in TNA, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So on a national level, okay. Now you may, Ed, disagree with me, but because Ric Flair is still alive, and like if Ric Flair took the right cocktail of drugs, he could be convinced by Conrad to do one more match. It's Ric Flair. Like Kurt's washed. Kurt's done. There's like think about that. Think about this, Ed. A doctor was crooked enough to clear Ric Flair to wrestle. Do you think there's a doctor out there not named Zahorian that's crooked enough to clear Kurt Angle in his current state to wrestle in his current state? I don't think so. So I got to say it's Ric Flair.
I mean, to the doctor's credit, I mean, Ric Flair did pass the NXT conditioning drill.
Twice is what we're told. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I like that. I like that, Ric Flair.
Kurt's a good one, though. When you go, especially like maybe they were talking about on the Lapsed Fan this week, but when Kurt had like the dark peach fuzz stubble on his horseshoe of balding hair.
Yeah.
Plus he had like a shitty 5 o'clock shadow beard. He looked like the scariest motherfucker in the world.
I've said this a lot that like I always Google that picture because whenever I don't shave my head, in my mind I picture that I look like that, but I actually look like Festus. You know? Like I want to look like Perk Angle in TNA, but
you don't have the cocktail down right. That's the problem.
It is. God damn it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for your calls. We're going to go through the plugs super duper quick. IWTV, a.k.a. Jerry's Internet Wrestling Emporium. Promo code @odds, new subscribers. Lets Jerry know that you came to him from us, and we get a little bit of a kickback for you doing so. Check the schedule out to see what they got, who they got coming up this weekend. You could also head over to our TeePublic store. There's a sale going on here until the end of the day on Friday. 35% off everything. Get shirts and throw pillows and cell phone covers and all the stuff that TeePublic has over there with designs inspired by @odds and save 35% off. That sort of thing. And of course, you could always help us out by making any and all of your purchases through our Amazon affiliate link. It is in the show notes to every single one of these episodes, no matter where it is you get these episodes. Does not cost you anything extra. Amazon, call it an advertising fee. I call it the thing that makes Adam happy at the end of the month when he gets his cut of the fucking money.
Yeah.
Notable purchases through the Amazon click-through this week include a Ditcheteer 1.8 gallon small trash can waste basket recycling bin slim profile for compact spaces, bathroom, office, bedroom, kitchen.
1.8 gallon. You couldn't spring for the 2 gallon? What the hell?
Apparently not.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, thank you very much for your purchase this week. Thank you for your purchase this week, this month, this year, this forever. Every little bit helps.
Absolutely. And you know what also helps? Listening to these podcasts. Longbox Heroes After Dark, Final Wrestling Place, We Need Wrestling, Porch Talk, Sports Talk, Viewer's Choice, WWE War, Wrestling Cheers, Indie Wrestling Guide, Pod Van Dam. Go listen to that compilation of Dwight calls. There was some stuff added at the end that I forgot about. I was pleasantly surprised during my listening. Wings on Wings, Between the Sheets, Hit My Music, and If You Catch My Grift. And also go check out Joe's Between the Sheets. I am like 40 minutes into it. I'll get to it. I'll finish it by the end of the month, probably.
Cool.
But that's it.
So that's all we got there. So now it's time for...
Some might cost a little. Some might cost a lot. But I'm the $100 Vansky. slaves will be bought. So, Joe, I heard tales on the correct listening order of Longbox Heroes. I heard on After Dark you might have made some technology purchases.
Yes. So maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't. Hopefully you didn't, that I did a halfway decent job of editing the show. But I was having some internet connectivity issues last week. It was really starting to persist as the week went on. Just dropouts where it would drop out for 30 seconds or 20 minutes. And, you know, it just was what it was. And it was really pissing me off and everything else like that. So I finally was able to get my local internet service provider on the line. They had the wrong cat number from my modem. They had the previous one, not my current one, when I gave them the current one. And again, I'm not a technical person. They're like, oh, that's an 8-port thing. We're already up to 32 ports. So come to the office. You know, our hours are the same hours that you work. So, you know, you're going to have to take time off work to come and do this. Swap it out. It's probably the modem. There you go, right? So I get the new modem. I hook everything up. And it's still happening. So I call them, and they said, okay, we're going to send a technician out to look at it. And it's one of those things where, like, I called it, like, 11 o'clock, and they're like, oh, somebody will be out there before 5, right? I'm like, well, I work from home, you know? So whenever they come is whenever they come. So the guy ended up coming, like, at 1. So he comes in. He's got, like, some sort of little app where he could check whatever's going on with it. And, you know, the power, the amplitude or whatever that the modem is supposed to be running at is supposed to be between like 30 and 35. Mine was run at like 60. Okay. So he goes, it's not your modem because obviously you just literally switched it out to the new one today. So let me go check to see what's going on. He went outside, and it was something with, you know, when you have your cable modem and it comes wired into your home, whatever that connector is where it was coming into the house had corroded. So he had to replace that, and then he had to replace the thing where it comes in on the inside of the house, put the cables through, and I haven't had an issue since. And that was on Tuesday afternoon. Now, what he did mention to me that I probably would need a new wireless router. Now, when I went to go pick up the new modem, they're like, oh, do you want the router modem combo? And I said, no, I'm okay. You know, we'll just take what I got, right?
Yeah.
So the guy even said to me, he goes, no, you don't want to get the combo for whatever reason. He goes, but we do a deal where we have one. It's a big fancy thing, whatever. You know, it'll add an extra $10 a month onto your internet bill because you're essentially leasing it from us. And if anything happens to it for the life of it, we'll just replace it. And I'm like, okay, we'll see about that. And then I looked up online, and the one that he was mentioning, and like as he was saying it, I was just writing down the name of what it was, right? So it was and I just had it in front of me, so I apologize. It was a Aero Pro 6E mesh, you know, router, Wi-Fi, whatever the hell thing it was, right?
Yeah, so is it a system of multiple pods, or is it just one?
So it's just one. I could have did the thing where I have the 3 where I extend it throughout the house.
Yeah.
And I always have the option if I want to buy more, I can. But just getting the one was like $111.
Yeah.
It came in today. It was a real quick switch over. I was able to use some of the new wires that I'd come in because I have really long, old wires for stuff. So I got a bunch of new shorter wires, which will help just the clutter that's over there. And the the wireless modem router or the wireless gimmick, the Wi-Fi thing that I had was at least 10 years old. So now I have like the brand new top of the line deal. And it's pushing out at like 6G for the Wi-Fi, which it definitely was not doing before.
Okay, I don't know if that's a number that like the right thing, like the right description.
So here's what I'll tell you. My Wi-Fi before was just like the little Wi-Fi symbol, right?
Yeah.
So now my Wi-Fi has a number 6 in the middle of it.
Oh, it's Wi-Fi 6, which is just another standard of Wi-Fi. Because technically, back in the day, there was like wireless A, there was wireless B, then there was wireless N was like the latest thing. Wi-Fi 6 is the current high-end standard of Wi-Fi. It just has to do with the amount of bandwidth it can handle.
Right. So I definitely
6 is the newest one.
Yeah, I definitely did not have that before.
Yeah. So that's good. Hopefully, no more drop-offs of your internet.
Fingers crossed. And that's all I got. That was enough.
All right, cool. I made a trip to Target this week, and just real quick, I'm not going to take a long time on my weekly purchases, but I bought a Masterverse, like the Masters of the Universe, like their detailed figures. Masterverse is kind of like their Black Series or their Ultimates. But I bought a Masterverse Roboto because he's one of my guys. I said I'll buy any Roboto or Manny Faces or Fakors that are out there. So I got the Roboto. That was pretty cool. And I also picked up at that same Target at the same trip. I don't know what series it is. It's the most recent series, but the Ultimate Brock Lesnar and the Ultimate Warrior figures, like the most recent series of Ultimates.
Oh, sure.
So I'm not buying every Ultimate because I did pass on that terrible Jeff Hardy in the last assortment, and I didn't buy the Logan Paul. But these are two cool ones. It's like Top Knot Brock, and it's like Ultimate Warrior where he has a duster that has Randy Savage on it, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I tell you, those Masters of the Universe, what are they called? Not the like their version of the Black Series?
Masterverse.
Yeah, every time I see those, man, I think to myself, I'm like, do I need those? And I always talk myself out of it.
Yeah, like I'm lucky that I have my rules are just those 3 guys. And I got the Fakor like a year ago. The Roboto's in my hands, and there's a Manny Faces that's up for pre-order, like on all the toy websites, but I'm just going to wait to find it in the wild because those, they're everywhere.
Right.
Once I have those 3 guys, I'm good. Like, I don't need anybody else. I'm happy with those 3.
Anything else?
I made one other purchase in the Major Pod group. Do you remember like 2 years ago when the AEW figures first came out and like you could not find them in stores? Like Series 1 just did not exist.
Right.
And like people were like, oh, you need to buy a case off of Ringside and put them away. And then like 10 years you can sell them and you can make like $1 million. That's not the case. And if you remember, the first series had very pasty skin, and then they changed it midway.
It was a running change, yes.
Yeah, did a running change, and most of them are like a good tan. So I always wanted a figure from that series because I never was able to find them in stores. And then when I joined like the groups and everything, people wanted like $30, $40 for them. But somebody had all of the figures from the first series, and they were the original version up in the Major group for 18 shipped. Like 18 shipped each.
Yeah.
So I got the Series 1 first version Kenny Omega, which is the one where he has like the cleaner coat and he has like the gun finger and stuff like that. So it's kind of like the New Japan Kenny.
Okay.
But like I said, $18 shipped. It's less than I would have paid it if I found it in a store. And I just never had anything from that series. So I was like, it's a good fit,
Yeah, now you could sit on for 8 years and be worth $1 million, right?
Exactly. Now I got in, and the last thing that I bought was actually something that just went up for pre-order today. A lot of people are pissed about it, but I don't care because it was missing in my collection. I bought the reissue of the Ultimate Bret Hart figure.
Now, aren't you the person that says never buy the Legends, the Ultimates now because they're just going to be out in the wild anyway for cheap?
Yes, I do say that, but let me give you my reasoning for this. A couple months ago...
It's Mr. Hitman, and you should always buy a Mr. Hitman figure for whatever price they ask?
That is a valid reasoning, but it wasn't mine.
Okay.
Couple months ago, if you remember, they re-released an older Brock Lesnar and an older Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, it's because like that version was short printed and we just want to give people, who didn't get access to it, they want to give it to them. So I ordered those from Ringside back before I made my new rule about not paying the suckers premium. And it turned out that series was not going to be available in stores. So it was only available through direct market. So Ringside, Entertainment Earth, that kind of stuff. So other like regular series of Ultimates, yes, I'll buy them in a store like I bought the Lesnar and the Warrior. This Bret Hart, because it's a reissue, it's like the best of Ultimates, they call it, but it's just a reissue. I'm worried that might fall into the same category as that older HBK and the older Brock. You know what I'm saying? And I think it was like $37 from Ringside. And
it was pretty cheap, yeah.
Yeah, and these retail $33 in store. So I'm like, okay, for $4, I don't care. If I'm a sucker, I'll be a sucker. But I have my feeling that Brett and the Triple H that they put on sale with it, I have a feeling that those won't hit like Walmart and Target.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's hope you're right in this instance,
Yeah. And if they do, they do. I spent $4 extra. I don't care.
Right.
But that Brett is one of the like 5 Ultimates that I was missing back when I was a completist. And I'm it's the one I wanted the most after the Shawn came out as a reissue, so happy to have it.
For sure.
But, Joe, that's all I got in weekly purchases, but I know we're running long, but
we're always running long. I think you got one more thing in the chamber, huh?
I do, because I'm kind of pissed off.
All heat, no heaters.
Joe, I don't know if you know this about me, but I occasionally buy Funko Pops.
Oh yeah, we forgot to do weekly purchases, right?
Yeah, I didn't purge any this week. But there was a Funko that I begrudgingly wanted to buy, and I'll explain to you very quickly why. A month or two ago, they announced on Funko's website that Funko was doing a collaboration with Snoop Dogg, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very, very unique combination there. And that they would be releasing, both on Funko's website and in these pop-up shops in LA, a limited edition Snoop Dogg wearing a Lakers jersey Funko Pop, and you guessed it, Snoop Dogg wearing a Steelers jersey Funko Pop. So I buy all the Steelers Funko Pops. So I'm like, okay, I need that Steelers one. I find out that it is going to be limited to 15,000 units, which is not a ton, but not super scarce. They're going to pop up on the website, and they'll probably sell out quickly. They announced there's going to be a Steelers home jersey, limited to 15,000. There's going to be a Lakers home, limited to 15,000, and an away, limited to 5,000, and only available in the pop-up shop. So I said, I don't care. Screw those Laker fans. They can go and fight over a freaking super expensive Funko on eBay because the Steelers one, there's just the one version, and they're making 15,000 of them. So the pop-up shop opens, and guess what, Joe? There's an away jersey one that's limited to only 5,000, and they sell out immediately, and they're on eBay. And you want to take a guess what these are selling for? Not what people are asking what they're selling for.
What was retail on them?
So 15? retail is $15.
Yeah. Let's say 100.
If it was 100, I'd buy one, Joe. Okay, go ahead.
200?
About 3 to 350 is the going sales rate of that away jersey Steelers Funko Snoop Dogg Pop.
Okay.
So the home jersey one did go up on Funko's website. I only wanted one, but seeing the price of these away jerseys, I bought the limit, which is 2. It was one of those deals where they went on sale at noon. I jumped on at noon. I got mine, and they sold out at like 12:05. So
the 15,000?
The 15,000 of them.
Ooh,
because
baby.
Yeah. Now keep in mind they might have took 1,000, 2,000, however many, and put them in the pop-up shops. But at least 10,000 sold out in 5 minutes on Funko's website. So I'm happy I got a Steelers Pop, but I'm super pissed off that there exists this one that I don't have, even though it's technically not really a Steelers Funko Pop. It's just Snoop Dogg wearing a Steelers jersey. But that grinds my gears.
Now, this is relatively new, so I'm sure the price will come down.
Maybe by like $20-$30.
Okay.
But like, and I won't, even if it's like $350 right now and it drops to like $250, I would never spend that kind of money on something like that. I would never spend $100 on this. I lied before with that. Like, I'd spend $40-$50 on it just to fill a hole in my collection.
Sure.
But like the fact that they made that, and I didn't know about it until they like literally they were on sale and popping up on eBay, I'm super pissed.
Is that a mistake on Funko or whoever's part of accidentally not announcing it, or?
I don't know, just because like they announced both of the Lakers and then they announced the one Steelers.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
It's weird because even if you look at the Funko app, which you can use to like kind of catalog your collection, the away jersey Snoop Dogg isn't even on the app, but all the other ones are. So they exist. They're out there. You know, I've seen them, but
yeah,
very weird. But you know what I would spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on when it comes to a Funko Pop, Joe?
What would that be?
The NFT Azrael Funko Pop that I've complained about many times months ago.
Right, because NFTs are a work.
They're a work, but you know what's not a work? Azrael being the greatest Batman of all time.
Sure.
But I have a new development in that story. So if you remember a long time ago, I said you had to basically buy packs of digital cards and you had a chance of pulling a redemption card for one of the NFT Funko Pops. And there was like a Kyle Rayner and like an Eradicator and a lot of like 90s DC properties.
Sure.
And I said, the Eradicator's limited to like, they're going to make 5,000 of them. And the Kyle Rayner, they're going to make 10,000. And I complained that the one that I wanted, the Azrael, they were only going to make 999 of them, if you remember that.
Yeah.
So they're starting to send out the redemptions. This story doesn't end today with me saying I bought one. But they announced the redemption numbers, which means how many were actually pulled from the packs before they shut off the sales of the digital packs. And the amount of Azraels that were found, basically found as in bought through these digital NFT nonsense. I don't know the exact number from me, but it's in the ballpark of 750. So there's not even a full 999 of them that I have to fight over. There's only 750. So you have any idea how expensive that thing's going to be? I have to buy it, but it's going to cost like $400 or $500.
Well, listen, you've painted yourself into a corner of being the Michael Jordan of Azrael physical figure collecting. So yeah. I think you have a loophole that you could let a NFT slip through your fingers.
Well, it's not the NFT you then redeem for a physical Funko Pop.
Oh, okay. See, I thought it was just like it was like the NECA things where like you could choose to keep it in your digital whatever.
No, I mean, I'm sure you could choose to do that, but the gimmick is that you buy these digital packs and then you can keep them in your digital wallet and just look at the pictures of some of them. But like 1 out of every 20 packs or something like that, you would pull a card that says this card entitles you to a physical version of this Funko. So basically there's 750 physical Azrael Funko Pops that are being shipped out right now to people that I need because it's a real physical Funko Pop in the same box, made of the same materials. It's a mold. It's the like Quesada Knight's End Batman, mold. And it's the only way to get it, Joe, and I need it.
Well, Adam, I'll say it sounds like you've been dealt a hand of bad luck, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to this. Now, I will make 2 statements regarding this. If our friend Chris ends up getting this, does that now make him the Michael Jordan of Azrael figure collecting?
No, because that would be one thing that he has that I don't, but I have multiple things that he doesn't have.
Okay.
It would definitely bring him closer.
Okay. And then the only other thing I'll say is, like I said, you've been dealt this hand of bad luck. And I'm not somebody who believes in karma or anything like that. But I will say, it sounds like you must have done something really bad for this bad thing to happen to you.
I don't know. I feel like I've been pretty good lately. I feel like I've been, I haven't picked any fights with any elderly people or children or the infirm at stores. Haven't started any beefs with any Browns fans on the internet. Like, I've been pretty good lately.
You haven't started any beefs with any Browns fans?
No. I was you're just sharing stats. That's all.
Okay. Not like putting together victory banners from scratch to taunt people or anything like that?
That was a gift.
Okay.
For somebody. Like, that was a nice deed. I think my karma slate is pretty clean, Joe. Like, I'm looking at it right now. Nothing that I've done bad.
Okay. Well, listen, you see how things work out with your 750 Azraels, and just think back to this week. If there's anything else that could have happened or that you did or said or deals that you've made, underhanded things that you've done that may have put you into this situation now where you'll not be able to get this Azrael Funko Pop.
All right, I will let you know. I'll let you know if the one voice on my, like the angel on my shoulder starts yelling at me, All right, good to know. But that's all I got, Joe.
Okay. So thanks, everyone, for bearing with us. These are always long shows because there's a lot of wrestling, of course, in the world for us to talk about. And then next week, of course, possibly we'll have the drawing for the picks for the Royal Rumble pool. And we'll have the semifinals of the gender-neutral At-Odds Monarch. And I'm sure nothing crazy is going to happen to the world of sports and entertainment between now and then, right?
Probably not. I think they got it out of their system.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so for Adam, this is Joe saying thanks, everyone, for listening. Be safe out there and enjoy some wrestling.